You guys ready? Today, we bring you bad news. Our competitor, Anime Wiz, has passed us in the race. But you know what? We've been playing a lot of Mario Kart recently. If there's one thing I've learned, you stay in second place, and right before the finish line, you hit him with the blue shell. So that's what we're doing right now. We're just holding back the blue shell, and we're going to time it just right. It's okay, Romero. Let him think that. That's what we want him to believe. Get the popcorn ready, all right? You're gonna wanna clip this, ship it, send it, save it. You're gonna clip this one. We're gonna keep this one in the oven for a real long time. And right when you think he's gonna win, blue show. We're gonna blue show him first place. 200 CCC. Oh shit, he's here. Bring him, motherfucker. No, I'm joking. I love you, bro. Shit, I said a bad word a minute into the react. I think we're okay. It wasn't that clear, so I don't think YouTube picked it up. But we're gonna read. Today we're reading Volume 3, Chapter 605, called Judgment. All right, let's see how cooked Darkwell is. Upon hearing GERHMAN Sparrow, Darkwell's first reaction was to reveal... Wait, let me get my books under here. Raise my mic a little bit. Let's reread that again. Upon hearing GERHMAN Sparrow, Darkwell's first reaction was to reveal everything about the strange die. He wanted this adventure that had helped spend huge sums of money to grasp the problem at its roots so as to effectively ensure his personal safety. But on second thought, he recalled his teacher exhortations, believing that the die might very well be a rather... I'm reading wrong already. Will be a rather important sealed artifact of the life school of thought. He was afraid that the truth would entice him to cause even more negative developments. There are plenty of rumors about adventurers who kill their employers during missions in order to earn greater benefits for themselves. I don't know GERHMAN Sparrow, and I have no idea what kind of character he has. I need to be cautious. Besides, the die has automatically rolled a 2. The situation isn't at its worst and most inducing. I can still wait for a chance. Darkwell hesitated for a few seconds and finally decided to talk about the superficial matters while avoiding the key points. He subconsciously dodged GERHMAN Sparrow, seemingly calm. It's this. My teacher and I belong to a secret organization. I'm escaping because a traitor appeared internally. A traitor. They grasped the pathway related to... It's freaking Monster. I'm sorry. Is the dice related to Monster? Right? Your fate is at the hands of a dice roll, right? You have 1 out of 6 chance, maybe. Maybe it's like a monster characteristic. They grasp the pathway related to fate and can make themselves sufficiently lucky and their target unlucky. I might have been cursed, so I was unlucky enough to be struck by lightning. After explaining, he forcibly hit the nervousness in his heart and awaited GERHMAN Sparrow's reply. Will he believe me? This kind of adventurer with rich experience and strength is likely hard to deceive. If he were to discover that I'm lying, he will likely sink me into the ocean. Darkwell stood there anxiously like a student being summoned to the teacher's desk. He's indeed from the Life School of Thought Monster Pathway. Klein nodded and thought, oh shit, you're right. Life School of Thought Monster Pathway. Klein nodded and thought, I understand. Try to do as little as possible. I will consider how I'll deal with you. With your bad luck. Darkwell was taken aback, completely unable to believe that GERHMAN Sparrow would easily accept a lie he fabricated on the spot. He forced a smile and quickly expressed his gratitude. Can he take him above the gray fog and then, like, purify him? No. It's only the dice. It's not him exactly. Then he returned to his room, leaning back against the door as he took out the ring box. What kind of sound effect did I just read? Pa. His hand trembled as he openly lid, only to discover that the milky white die had already strangely rolled itself to have a 6. How is it rolling, bro? If all sides are like completely like sealed. To have the side 6 facing up, did this mean that I was lucky enough to successfully fool GERHMAN Sparrow? Darkwell thought in enlightenment. Mr. Harry swooped down and didn't choose to perch on the chubby pocket of his shoulder. Apparently, it was still someone worried about how it could have also been implicated when Darkwell was nearly struck by lightning. It stood on a wooden desk and stared ahead with its round eyes. Darkwell, you're very nervous. You don't have to tell me that. Darkwell said in frustration. The owl spread its wings and said, all right, I'll use a different explanation. I believe I should consider changing owners. GERHMAN Sparrow seems to be a pretty good... No shot he's gonna leave him. GERHMAN Sparrow seems to be a pretty good choice. Then what about me? Darkwell asked in surprise, momentarily forgetting his anger. Mr. Harry tisked and asked and said, wow, I am out of it today. Don't you sense the concern and fear in your heart, you're already suspecting whether you can see tomorrow's sun. The strange die is really, really dangerous. If I were you, I would have thrown it out the window and into the sea and get your teacher to fish it out himself. How do you know about my teacher's teacher? Darkwolf blurted out the question. Mr. Harry proudly lifted its head and said, don't doubt an owl's vision. Darkwolf fell into thought and didn't phase him. Let me fix my stand. And didn't face himself with an answer. No, that won't work. Throwing the die into the sea would have resolved all my problems. According to Old Man, even if it's buried out at sea, any powerful person will be able to find it in days. That will mean they'll really lose it. Silly bird, you lack general knowledge and mysticism, and you don't know how many important sealed artifacts are just like the most popular workers in the Red Theater. They'll always be able to attract hungry men, including you. Harry calmly replied, as for the problem being lacking in general knowledge and mysticism, I believe a famous quote can explain it. Emperor Rizal once said that if a child doesn't receive a good education, then it's the father's fault. This sentence can also be used to describe the problems between a pet and its owner. All right, Darkwell, regardless, I believe you need to discuss the die with GERHMAN Sparrow. Otherwise, there will only be greater danger. Let me wait and see a little longer. Perhaps it will be fixed at 6, Darkwell said with some hesitation. Cap. He sat on the edge of the bed before lying down. At this moment, the storm that had been howling and gradually calmed down. The sky began to turn calm, and the Leonard blew its horn, indicating that it was setting sail. Inside the first-class cabin's living room, Klein looked out the window, saw the blurry rainbows that appeared after the rain, yet his heart wasn't calm. He wasn't too afraid of enemies. Out at sea, apart from the 4 kings and the official demigods of the pirate admirals who appeared with their fleet, there were many few manners that could threaten him, who had creeping hunger and several mystical items. Even the ship was sunk, he was able to escape thanks to the many charms he had from the sea god domain. But luck was something he really had no confidence in. It wasn't within the limits of his abilities, nor could he think of a way to handle it. Although my title is the King of Yellow and Black who wields good luck. Liner. Oh, like Reiner from Attack on Titan, just Liner. Got it. Thank you, username. I did not lose my place. Let me just find where it says the fool who... King of Yellow and Black who wields good luck. Found my place. That was modified from the luck enchantment ritual, and the luck enchantment ritual clearly wasn't to allow people to get out of bad luck. Darkwell's matters is quite difficult to handle. I can only invest more effort into keeping a close eye on his situation. I'll immediately rescue him if something unlucky that can cause death happens. Let's hope that we can last for these few days until we arrived at Oreo Island. Did I say Oreo Island? Or Ravi Island. His senior should be able to help him change his luck. Klein rubbed his temples, but he didn't show any abnormalities. Darkwell, who had been too nervous the previous night, fell into a deep sleep without realizing. After a while, his stomach growling informed him that it was time for lunch. He tried hard to open his eyes, but he felt as though an invisible person was pressing down on him, making it impossible for him to move. There's no shot, bro. Like, his teacher's teacher has to be like a high sequence individual from the monster pathway that's going to be able to fix his luck. Oh, wait. There's a convo. Oh, in case there's spoilers. Yeah. Hold up. Spoiler convos. Yeah, careful, guys. He felt the back of his head swelling with a sharp pain. He felt like his breathing became more and more difficult as his heart raced at an abnormal pace. Don't tell me that I'm going to experience a sudden death in my dreams. Dark will struggle with all his might, but he failed to wake up. He became weaker and weaker with time. At this moment, his mouth was opened up by a sharp object as an ice-cold liquid was poured in. This liquid also flowed down in his face, wetting his chin and neck. Darkwell's body recovered as he finally managed to open his eyes. He saw 2 bright, round, gold-like eyes nearly slamming into his head. Rearing a Beyonder pet can be quite effective sometimes. Darkwell first felt wistful before he rapidly sat up and took out the ring box. Inside the die, he rolled to another point. 1 point. So, isn't 1 like you die? So unlucky that I almost died in my sleep. No, I don't think it's that simple. It seems to magnify certain probabilities, such as the chances of being hit by lightning or the chances of experiencing sudden death while asleep. No, that this can't carry on. If this continues, I'll definitely die. Darkwell thought in his stare. So he rolled a 1, which... So a 1 won't necessarily kill you. You just have a higher likely or higher probability. I'll definitely die. Darkwell thought in hysteria. Horror quickly overwhelmed his thought as he spurred his hands to hold on the ring box and rushed to the door. Perhaps the result of nearly suffering a sudden death, he was lacking in strength. He could hardly twist the handle. Help, help, Mr. Harry screamed sharply. Bang. The door opened, slamming in Darkwell's head. If Klein hadn't controlled his strength, the chubby apocryphy's head probably would have cracked open with blood spewing out everywhere. Without even rubbing his bruise, Darkwell frantically shouted, "It's time. It's this. It's the die that gives me bad luck. When it's at one point, I'll fail at everything I do." He already decided to inform GERHMAN the whole truth as he looked forward to the powerful adventure, giving him some effective suggestions. He didn't limit the possibility of him killing him out of greed, but he had weighed the matter. If he had to make a choice, he definitely chose the one, which wasn't terrible. Telling GERHMAN might lead to death, but not telling him would spell certain death. Okay, this choice was no longer something that needed consideration. I don't care if I die, if the die is lost. My life is more important. Good for him. Darkwell thought with righteous indignation. Then he saw a smile appear across GERHMAN's mouth. "Thank you for your honor. The joke isn't too bad. It's not a joke." Darkwell looked down at the ring box and he doesn't believe him because he rolled a 1. Darkwell looked down at the ring box and saw that there were no changes to the blood red single point on the die. Could it be that even an explanation with plenty of logic will fail? The chubby apocryphy said he fell into despair. Dude, that is so wild. He actually doesn't believe him because he rolled a fucking 1. Klein's like, such a funny joke. Like, why would that be a sealed artifact? It's real. He's speaking the truth. Harry flapped his wings. Darkwell, who felt hope arise in him, heard GERHMAN say in a deep voice, "Then why don't you throw it into the ocean?" With that said, Klein politely closed the door and returned to the living room. This fellow must be hiding a secret. I mustn't be fooled by such a clumsy excuse. Klein, no shot he actually believed that. No shot he didn't believe that. Klein sat in his chair and waited for Darkwell to describe the situation in detail. Darkwell sat down, depressed. He sat there motionless, afraid of encountering another failure. He didn't notice that the die had already switched its face again to a 3. Before lunch, Klein entered the washroom to clear out his digestive... That's another way for him he had to go poop. Before lunch, Klein entered the washroom to clean out his digestive system. It's such an etiquette way to say he had to go use the saw. After washing his hands, he went above the gray fog and passing and preparing to browse through the prayers of the sea god believers. Just as he sat at the high-backed chair of the fool, he suddenly recalled the many details as his eyes widened. How could I believe such a weak explanation? Why do I think that it's because of that die? In the past 2 events, it felt like my mind had been clouded. No, it's not that. Darkwell's explanation happened to match a certain theories of mine. Therefore, I instinctively believed it to be real and fake. Klein's eyes constricted as he thought about it. At that moment, he had already made the judgment. The die is indeed problematic. That was the end of the chapter. Oh shit, the next page was blank. All right. Chapter 606. Chapter 606 is called Intimidation. Above the great fog, by the way, man, thank you. There's still 30 of you guys here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Above the great fog, inside the palace that looked like a giant's resistance. Yeah, man. Thank you to all our new members, to our beautiful mods, everybody that's been tuning in since day 1 or even after volume 1 or 2. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Above the great fog, inside the palace that looked like a giant's residence, Klein tapped the edge of the model table as his thoughts revolved around the stage die. It can influence me without me realizing. This is already something similar to 008. I'm sorry. Is the die grade 0? I was thinking grade 1. This is already... Oh, hold up. If it was able to fool Klein, it has to be grade 0. This is already somewhat similar to 008 from back then. It's just that one is right in front of me while the other is hidden. It's definitely a sealed artifact in that existence. And it's the kind that exists at the very pinnacle. Even if it's not a grade 0, it has to be very special existence among grade 1s. All right. So it's like a high 1, low 0. I'm temporarily unable to interfere with matters regarding fate, but I can't just passively face it. With the passage of time, objects at the level of sealed artifacts will often cause more severe damage. It might begin to affect people around the chubby apocryphy, such as me or all the other passengers on the ship. Klein thought over the matter seriously without any solutions in his mind. He decided to immediately return to the real world. He didn't know how to seal the die or how to reduce its influence, but he knew someone had a clue. It was the snake of Mercury. Didn't Will say to stop bothering him? Like, I'm only a fetus, leave me alone. It was the snake of... Nah, I think he's gonna be chill. I think he'll be okay. It was the snake of Mercury, Will Ossipton, who was still inside his mother's womb as a fetus. Oh no. Cuttlefish. Don't you even fucking dare. Don't you even dare hurt this beautiful, innocent woman. Oh my god. And like, bro, like we just have to like not think about her for like 5 volumes, and then she's gonna have a beautiful safe delivery. Because now I'm scared for the mom. And I don't even want to read chat, bro. I don't even want to read chat right now, bros. I'm traumatized. I'm scared the other snake of Mercury is gonna find her and then just take the characteristic. Everything will be fine. Thank you. Thank you, someone. Of course, everything will be fine. Entering the entering the master bedroom, he took out the paper crane in his wallet and placed it on the table. Klein took a look at the surface, which still had signs of being erased. He picked up a pencil and wrote a simple question: "How do I deal with that die?" He folded the paper crane back into its original form, stuffed it into his wallet, and went to the door of the servants' room before knocking on it twice. This was an involution of GERHMAN Sparrow's persona because he was a gentlemanly madman. Of course, Klein was mainly afraid of bashing Darkwood to death by rashly opening the door. This was something that he had learned for the movie franchise Final Destination. I'm sorry, did he see the new Bloodline movie? This was something that he had learned from the movie franchise Final Destination. In addition, Klein was also worried about witnessing something disgusting or unpleasant. With the preferences Darkwood had exhibited when he realized that he's in extreme danger and unable to extract himself from it, with waiting for death being the only option available to him, there's a no-zero chance of him pleasuring himself to climax one last time. Klein lampooned as he heard the chubby apocryphy's weak reply. "What's the matter? It's good that you aren't dead yet." Klein carefully opened the door and leaned his body a little forward, looking at Darkwood, then opened the ring box, which was sitting in front of him. He calmly asked, "What's the score?" "Can't you check it for the papers yourself?" Sports section. Darkwood remained silent. "I'm asking about the die," Klein simply added. "It's still at 3 points." Darkwood first answered instinctively before turning his head and jumping up. "You believe me?" Klein didn't reply so as to prevent him from recalling how GERHMAN Sparrow had been fooled by the die. He turned around and said in an unperturbed tone, "Bring the die outside." "No, no, no. All right, all right." Darkwood and Harry cried in joy almost at the same time. Oh, because they believe him. They either raised their arms or wings. After the chubby apocryphy carefully carried the ring box out, Klein pointed at the coffee table and said, "Put it on there." It's not good. "You aren't considering unlucky enough. Otherwise, I would have already beaten you up." Klein thought and calmly instructed, "From this moment forth, both of you will take turns to monitor this die. Once it drops below 3 points, you are to inform me immediately." Both of us. Darkwood wore a blank look for a moment. "Including me, the owl perched on the edge." Yeah, because then he probably won't believe him. "Including me, the owl perched on the edge of the chair's back, raising its right wing." Klein leaned back into the sofa and crossed his right leg as he said calmly, "This will help in maintaining focus and energy." With that said, he gestured to the owl with his chin. "You're up first. My name is Harry," the owl grumbled. "Harry." Klein resisted the urge to laugh as he said to Darkwood, "Put the bell and get the attendant here. From this moment forward, we will choose to have the room service for our meals. Before reaching Oravi Island, you have to be in the living room at all times. You are not to go there anywhere. You are not to go anywhere. Even if you wish to use the washroom, it will be when it's a 3 or a 4. If you really can't hold it, I'll give you a bucket." Upon hearing GERHMAN Sparrow give instructions with regularity and thoroughness, Darkwood calmed down a little at the time. He was no longer as horrified as before. The matter he was most worried about prior to this was that firstly, GERHMAN Sparrow would be enticed by greed and choose to kill him for the die. Secondly, this somewhat crazy and cold adventurer might be frightened by the die, and that he would choose to terminate the mission and stop providing protection. And now GERHMAN Sparrow didn't show any fear, and he even seemed very confident. Darkwood secretly sighed in relief and thought, his performance was really professional. He isn't afraid at all. He can't even escape the influence of the die and accept my explanation. He lives up to his name of being the powerful adventurer who easily haunted the Wormtongue. He's definitely a powerhouse at the level of Pirate Admiral level. Darkwood stood up and walked to the door and pulled a service bell. Just as he returned to the sofa, he heard Harry's sharp screech. "It has changed. It has changed to 2 points." Oh, that's not good. Truly the Lord of Bathrooms? No, they gotta hold it, bro. They can't even use the bathroom. Suddenly, Klein exerted strength in his legs as he rose up from the sofa without warning and rushed to Darkwell's side. Bang! As a gunshot rang from outside, Klein pulled Darkwell's arm, swung his arm back, and shook his wrist, throwing the chubby apocryphy to the side. At this point, in the wall opposite to... I'm sorry, that the neighbors have like a scuffle and then like they accidentally shot. At this point in the wall opposite to where Darkwood was standing, there was a bullet hole. Did a sailor's gun misfire, or did the bullet ricochet when aiming at some seabird? That is crazy. Genuinely Final Destination. That die is literally Final Destination. Did a sailor's gun misfire? Did the bullet ricochet when aiming at some seabird or something? Regardless of the situation, the chances of that happening are very low. Yet Klein turned his head to the chubby apocryphy. "Are you injured?" Darkwood shook his head with a lingering sense of fear. "I'm fine." In the time that followed, Klein resolved more than 10 accidents, one after another, and included sudden collapses of the chandelier in the room, a hammer dropped by slipping maintenance workers headed straight for Darkwell's head, as well as Darkwell's nearly dying from choking on fishbone. What the fuck, dude? It's like that one Supernatural episode where like Fucking Dean literally chokes eating tacos. He gets like food poisoning or some shit like that. That's crazy. These didn't seem like anything serious, but for Klein to remain highly focused, it was inevitable for him to be exhausted. Thankfully, the die automatically rode to 4 points later, finally ending the hour, which was fraught with disasters. Wait, does it change every hour? Dude, I feel bad for him. This dude is literally living hog. Oh my god, oh my god, he's like, it's like groundhog day, dude. No, I can't continue like this. Who knows if something will happen to me when I'm rescuing him. Klein sent away the captain, who came to apologize and said to Darko, I'll sleep for half an hour. He's like, I'm sorry for the misfire. Before of you, wait, both for you to watch the die. Immediately wake me up when there's a problem. The chubby apocryphy and the owl nodded like a hungry woodpecker. Leaning back in the sofa, Klein used his cognition to quickly fall asleep, hoping to receive a reply from Will Ossipton. When he woke up in his dream, he heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the pitch black, desolate plains. He followed the same old path and reached the depths of the black steeple and the protruded ground surrounded by the tarot. Oh, it's the got it with Will. And the protruded ground surrounded by the tarot cards. There were many new silvery lines that were densely written. Klein stopped walking and quickly read it. It's called the Die of Probability. That sounds like grade 0. Grade 1. It's a sealed artifact of... okay, it's grade 0. Highest level. It's a sealed artifact of the highest level in our school of thought. I believe it can reach the standard of a grade 0 sealed artifact. It controls the probability of everything. 1 point will maximize the probability of unfavorable matters occurring to the target. 2 points will raise the probability of unfavorable matters greatly. This doesn't mean that 2 points is safer than 1 point. This is because once the probability is high enough, any accident can happen. 3 points is to increase the probability of unfavorable matters. It's the opposite from 4, 5, and 6. Even for me, a being who can resist it to a certain extent is a rather dangerous sealed artifact. A demigod can be killed using it? What? I lost my place. No, I lied. But of course, it can also kill yourself. I know your contest with the die probability is likely the equivalent to the battle between the god of save and load and the RNG gods. I don't understand that reference. Klein lampooned inwardly as he continued reading. The die probability has living characteristics. It always makes the wielder swing back and forth between having the good and the bad luck. If one isn't careful, it's possible to die from an accident. When it awakens to a certain degree, it will control the people and objects around the wielder, controlling the probability of their action. It's RNG. So I guess that's why Klein didn't believe in, because it also affected him. Although it hasn't been confirmed, I suspect that given enough time, it will be able to influence the entire world. What the fuck? Although it hasn't been confirmed, I suspect that given enough time, it will be able to influence the entire world, making every action of life be determined by its score. Of course, this is excluding deities for now. To put it simply, it's digesting the... Quo versus die, take your bets. I'm taking the die's bets, bro. It's digesting the world. Did I just read that? To put it simply, it's digesting the world. This is definitely at the level. This is like above a grade 0, right? I thought grade 0 was like domain over a city. How the fuck is this digesting the world, dude? This is definitely at the level of grade 0 sealed artifact. Extremely dangerous. How terrifying. Klein couldn't help but frown as he eagerly continued reading. To truly seal the die probability is rather complicated. To put it simply, it's to use a specific sealed artifact to isolate it from the spirit world, astral world, and the real world. What the fuck? You can give it a try, huh? I'll reveal my cards. I have long discovered that you can resist my prophetic senses. Perhaps you can use it to seal it. There's another way, but it can... Oh shit. Klein is the only one that can fucking seal this. You just throw it above the gray fog, and now you are connected to nothing. Perhaps you can see that there's another way, but it can only briefly reduce its influence. However, this should be enough to send the die of probability to the hands of someone who can seal it. The method is to use the fact that it has a living characteristic. Use an effective method to intimidate it. That way, it will behave calm down for a period of time. Creeping hunger. It will last at least 12 hours before continuing. After repeating acts of intimidation, the influence it receives will decrease. The influence it receives. So over time, it like builds an immune system to its fear or whatever. After a week, it will mark you and madly control your probabilities because you keep scaring it, right? And madly control your probabilities. Finally, thank you for your help. Sincerely yours, Wool Ossipton. As expected of the Snake of Fate, he has indeed discovered my uniqueness. Throwing the die of probability above the Grey Fog should be able to seal it. But the problem is that a grade 0 sealed artifact with living characteristics might influence the space above the Grey Fog and chase me away, making itself the owner. What? How does he come to this? Well, it's polite. He's a nice guy. I like him. How would he know that? Such matters cannot be answered with divination. It will definitely be able to resist, just like 008. Klein rejected the idea of using the Grey Fog. Wait, the music sounds really loud now. Let me lower this. As the thought whirled in his mind, he suddenly had an idea. Klein quickly left his dream and woke up. He said to Darkwall, I have a method of suppressing its influence. What is it? Let me take it to the bathroom. Darkwall asked in pleasant surprise. Klein didn't answer, and he picked up that probability, which had 4 points facing up, so now his chances are high. Before entering the washroom, what does he want to do? I remember. Did he fucking... It's like, did he, like, put it up there? It's like, where did he hide it? Oh shit! Klein quickly left the dream and woke up. He said to Darkwall, "Oh wait, hold up. What is it?" Darkwall asked in pleasant and. What does he want to do? I remember that in some folklore, the way they treat evil objects is to throw shit. Darkwall didn't wish to think further. This series is so fucking funny when it wants to be funny, dude. Oh shit. After entering the washroom and locking the door, Klein immediately set up a ritual to summon himself. Oh shit. Following that, he went above the Grey Fog and brought out the iron cigar case. Oh shit, dude. Then he picked up the die and probability. You see, me and Darkwall had two different different thought processes. He thought he was gonna throw shit at it. I genuinely thought, like, maybe he's gonna think he's gonna put the die up there, you know? Truly the Lord of Bathrooms. Then he picked up the die probability and opened the cigar case. And the cigar case. He's gonna put it with Rosago's characteristic. Then he picked the die probability and opened the cigar case. Inside of the cigar case was the all-black eye, which came from the marionettes. Under the darkness, Klein's face was cloaked in the shadows. He watched with a deep eye and the gloomy gaze as he brought the die probability close to the strange eye. It was a bionic characteristic which contained the true creator's mental... Oh, that scares it? Not digesting, it's digitizing the world, as pointed out by someone's wildflower. Oh, I'm sorry, tunnel vision. Wait, really? So it's not digesting, it's digitizing the like Digimon. My bad. It's digitizing the world, as pointed out. What does that mean, though? Like, it's like, is it analyzing the world? Like, it's like taking data. Don't ask me what it means. Okay. I don't know what. Okay, we'll look into it. Well, I have to look what we'll look up what that means. I assume digitizing meaning like it's taking data on the world for whatever reason. It was a bionic characteristic which contained the true creator's mental corruption. The corners of his mouth cracked open as he revealed a genuine smile and whispered to the die in his hands, "Here, let me treat you to a concert." It's a this is a reference to the game. It's a reference to how gamers will attempt to save and load the game to beat the game's RNG for a better item. Safe scumming. I've done that. I've done that before. And the second reference was random number generator. Yeah, of course, RNG means random number generator. Okay, I've done that. I've been a safe scum here and there. I'll admit to that. All right, next chapter. Chapter 607 is called Discovering an Abnormality. The window of the washroom was very high, preventing sufficient sunlight from shining in. It could only barely dispel the darkness, making everything seem gloomy. Klein moved the die probability in his right hand to the all-black eye, and suddenly it shook. Then he threw the item into the other side of the washroom. The milky white die rolled a few times before finally stopping with 4 red dots pointing up. Klein held back his ubious smile and took a step to the side and picked up the die of probability again. He lowered his head and said in a gently manner, "You don't wish to listen to it?" Damn, what a fucking badass. You don't want to listen to the true creator? Let's do this. Give me an answer. 6 represents cooperation while everything else represents a rejection. Fucking Klein, dude. He's genuinely bullying the die. Well, because it has human characteristics, right? So it can respond. With that said, he threw the die probability and reached out to catch it. The milky white die fell straight down and rapidly rolled, showing 6 red dots like, I'll cooperate. Very good. Klein praised with a chuckle. After throwing the all-black eye above the gray fog, he turned to open the door to the washroom and slowly walked to the living room. Under Darkwill and Harry's gaze, which was filled with anticipation, worry, curiosity, and puzzlement, he suddenly stopped and threw the die probability out. No. Darkwill and the owl cried out at the same time and afraid that a score of 3 points and below would happen. And it's going to be landed at 2, right? The latest, it says 2? I thought it says 6. Shit, did I oh, wait, hold up. The ladder subconsciously flew up to distance itself from the fatty who might be struck. That is a mean characterization. The ladder subconsciously flew up to the distance to... So, Harry flew himself up to distance himself while from the fatty who might be strict from lightning. That is so mean. With a crisp tinkle, the milky white die rolled on the coffee table several times before fixing itself at 2 points. Just as the color in Darkwell's face drained, the die languidly rolled and fixed itself on 4. For the next 12 hours, it will be relatively quiet. Klein calmly sat down and began enjoying his breakfast, which had no longer turned cold. He really had a solution. Darkwill lowered his body and stared at the strange die on the coffee table. After nearly a minute, he couldn't help but extend his hand and throw the die, managing to roll a 6. Just as his palm left, the die moved by itself to a 4. How magical. What method did GERHMAN Sparrow actually use? Did he really shit? Did he really shit and soak the die inside? No, I can just imagine GERHMAN. Yeah, you like that, bro? Yeah, that's so gross. Darkwill decided to accept the outcome and stop thinking of the reason. Otherwise, he suspected that he would end up vomiting. Oh, hold up. The Elden Ring theme song should not be played right now. Let's wait. That song goes a little too hard. How magical. What method did GERHMAN Sparrow actually use? Oh, I just read this. He stopped himself from thinking of the reason. Otherwise, he suspected that he would end up vomiting. The music is way too loud now. Looking up at GERHMAN Sparrow, who was calmly spreading butter on his bread, Darkwill suddenly felt that with just a promise of 1,000 pounds to hire a bodyguard at this level was extremely worth it. Worth it. He can definitely be ranked at the same level as a pirate admiral. If a tycoon were to encounter a situation like mine, they wouldn't hesitate to hire him with half of their wealth. Thankfully, I only pay 300 pounds. The rest will be borne by teacher and the others. Darkwill felt relieved when he realized that he didn't need to worry about the die and randomly rolled for the next 12 hours. He couldn't help but stand up and stretch his back. Oh, now he's feeling a little too confident. He walked to the window and opened the tightly shut window to see the sparse clouds scattered across the clear skies. The endless azure blue sky stirred under the reflection in bright sunlight, like it had countless golden fragments scattered in it. This energized Darkwill as he felt a burden be lifted from his chest. Unlike Backland, which would only become warm by the end of February, the Rorsted Archipelago was no longer plagued by the cold. Life had returned to this area, facing the sea and the blooming of the flowers in the warm spring. Klein, who had finished his bread, walked to a spot behind Darkwill and felt like he was an animal who had been awoken from his hibernation. He didn't recite the poem. The flash passed his mind as firstly, it didn't suit GERHMAN Sparrow's persona, and secondly, it would probably make Darkwill reflect over Emperor Roselle's poetic talents. He realized that he didn't need to worry about the die's random rolling for the next 12 hours. He couldn't help but stand and stretch his back. He walked to the window and opened the... I just read this, right? Where's the archipelago? Sorry, I took a sip of my coffee and I got lost. Facing the sea and the blooming of the flowers in the warm springs, Klein, who had finished his bread, walked to a spot behind Darkwill and felt like he was an animal who had awoken from his hibernation. He didn't recite the poem that flashed past his mind as firstly, it didn't suit GERHMAN Sparrow's persona, and secondly, it would probably make Darkwill reflect over Emperor Roselle's poetic talent. Until the evening, the die still didn't roll, but the weather had changed. Strong winds howled. No shot, the wind is going to blow him away. Strong winds howled as the dark clouds gathered. A storm was brewing. This was the most common danger at sea. Even if one took a safe sea route which had been traversed by others, one would occasionally encounter similar situations. It just wasn't as terrifying. Klein looked at the tall waves of the dark sky, and he felt as though the ship was cruising through a mountain valley. By the sides were the tall blue cliffs that could topple down at any moment. That's crazy, dude. That's some huge waves, bro. The intense pressure made a mid-sequence beyonder like him feel repressed. He even wished to pray to the god, hoping he's going to pray to himself. He even wished to pray to God, hoping that the liner would cruise through the storm safely. It's no wonder sailor pirates and merchants who live on the sea for extended periods of time can't help but respect the Lord of Storms. They would more or less believe in him, Klein sat in silence. Although he didn't believe the storms that wasn't that powerful could bury a liner which was powered by both sails and steam engines. He still attached caution to the matter by praying to his alternative identity, see God Calvatua. He was afraid that the dire probability would suddenly go crazy during the storm and roll a one, causing the ship to sink to the bottom. Oh shit, it probably could do that if it wanted to. Causing the ship to sink to the bottom of the sea. Therefore, he decided to make a preemptive precautions. Klein did believe Snake of Fate will also in judgment of the dire probability would be quiet for 12 hours after the first intimidation act, but this was without any additional conditions. He believed that it was more likely than a sealed artifact with a living characteristics would deal with a situation like a person instead of rules. Hence, he had to take precaution for any troubles it might cause. Stealing a glance at Darkwell and the Owl, who were looking at somewhat uneasy due to the storm, Klein calmly said, I'll take a nap, continue watching and die, take turns and do not relax. Alright, watching GERHMAN Sparrow enter the master bedroom, Darkwell walked to the side of the coffee table and sat down. As he stared at the die, he asked Harry, what thoughts do you have now? Harry flew and mumbled, why am I not a petrol? I don't know what that is. And the master bedroom, Klein went above the gray fog and summoned the sea god scepter from the junk pile. He held the scepter with his blue gems embedded at the top and quickly replied to his prayer. Klein didn't expend too much of his spirituality to calm the storm. This was firstly because they weren't too far from the surrounding seas of the Rorschach archipelago. Such an obvious and exaggerated supernatural phenomenon was easily able to attract the attention of sea god John Cutman, who shared the same domain of the storm priests of the ship. Secondly, he had to conserve strength to deal with the dire probability. What he did was simple. He augmented the ship with layers of beyond effects, allowing it to cruise through the storm stably without any risk of capsizing. Towards a sequence 5 or 6 beyonder. Oh my god, I just heard my fire alarm go off. I have low batteries. What a perfect timing, man. What a coincidence. Towards a sequence 5 or 6 beyonder below the rank of demigod to do something similar to a liner, which had hundreds of people on board, required plenty of preparations and a complicated ritual. It was only possible by exhausting them, but to a sea god of this domain, it was all simple and easy. A demigod already has inklings. Oh, that's gonna sound annoying, huh? A demigod already had inklings of a god. Klein sighed and threw the scepter back into the junk pile before silently dispersing from above the gray fog. Let's finish this chapter, and I'm gonna check if I have batteries. If I don't have batteries, it's gonna be a crazy coincidence, man. So we're gonna find out right now. In the time that followed, the ship bobbed up and down like a leaf in the wind. But no matter how terrifying or towering the dark blue waves were, nothing happened to it until the end of the storm. At 4 p.m. on Thursday, Backland William Streets, Forest Wall. Oh, we're with Forest. Ooh, that is loud. Okay, we're gonna take a quick pause after this chapter. Forest Wall once again arrived here by the carriage. She didn't sit in the coffee shop again. Instead, she strolled down the street and observed the pedestrians and surrounding buildings. She also took a note of the figures with special traits of the materials for her novel. There really are a lot of foreigners. They are still mainly from Fasik and Intis. One of them is a barbaric and stocky white bear, while the other is a colorful, ostentatious rooster. Forrest chuckled silently to herself. At this moment, she came to the middle of the William Street, where there was an abandoned chapel. Withered vines crawled over its walls, and gray stones were strewn everywhere. With the intention to not waste Mr. World's payments, Ford deliberately approached it to check for any abnormalities. She circled around the chapter without discovering anything. Following that, she entered and avoided the disgusting shit and rotten things, and she quickly observed every corner. Suddenly, her gaze came to a stop as she frowned bit by bit. In a particular corner of a half-collapsed ruin, the ground had been dug up by someone. The pit wasn't too big or deep, and there were remnant traces of it being due to fingers. This should be considered an abnormality, right? Forrest cautiously retreated and didn't do a detailed investigation. Oh, man. What a fire coincidence. After walking through all of William Street, she immediately returned home and organized the abnormality materials she jotted down together. She then sacrificed it to Mr. Fool and asked him to hand it over to the world. Forrest didn't hide, conceal anything she saw, even if they didn't seem to have any superficial problems. This is because she knew very well that any abnormality would be judged by the world and not by herself, who didn't understand the situation. In an ancient palace above the Grey Fog, Klein immediately began reading the report of Miss Magician that she had submitted. The abandoned chapel has signs of being dug up. The previous digging attempts had been dealt. So we're going back here. It's my fire alarm. Don't worry. I'm going to change it right now after we finish this chapter. Yeah, don't worry. It's adding engagement, right, to the chapter. The abandoned chapel had signs of being dug up. The previous digging attempts had been dealt with by me and Miss Sharon, who would dig it up again. Rafter Pound, the descendants of the Tudor family, he nearly died from an evil spirit's possession without any helpers. It's unlikely he would take further risks. Who could it be? Klein thought for a moment, but he couldn't lock onto a suspect. All he could do was continue reading. While he heard the notes written in beautiful language, he acutely noticed a point. There are many foreigners on the street. They are mainly from Fasig and Intis. It wasn't like the back when I went to William Street. Did a Fasig or Intis company recently open there? Fasig, Intis. Klein ruminated over the two countries' names when he suddenly recalled something. The royal family of the Fasig Einhorn, the Einhorn family, and the Intis former royal families, the Sauron family, are both in control of the Hunter pathway, which is also the Red Priest pathway. Yeah, it's, you know what? It's Harry. Harry's tripping in the background. It was two of the blood types which the evil spirits had this. Wait, hold on, let me read this part. The royal family of the Fasig Einhorn, the Einhorn family, the Intis former royal family, the Sauron family are both in control of the Hunter pathway, which is also the Red Priest pathway. It was two of the blood types which the evil spirit had designated as being capable of removing the seal. I'm sorry, are we going to remove its seal this volume? Are you guys noting every time you hear the beep? Together with the Medici family descendants, which had been destroyed at Banshee Harbor, the three factions which held control over the Red Priest pathway are involved. Banshee Harbor was destroyed, causing the Medici family, beyond her characteristics, to use some magical connection to contact the evil spirits who had suspected to be Red Angel. Hence, the members of the Einhorn and Sauron families were attacked. No, that's not realistic. If the Church of Storms didn't discover any beyond her characteristics, they definitely would have noticed a problem in this. Another reason, the evil spirit is using another method to attract people from Einhorn and Sauron families. What or who did it go through in order to do so? The number of people who know of the evil spirit's existence is only a handful. Me, Miss Sharon, as well as amidst his racing thoughts, Klein suddenly thought of possibility. It was Rafter Pound, the descendant of the Tudor family, who had previously been. It has to be him again. There's no way it's Sharon. The Tudor family, who had been previously possessed by the evil spirit, he had unknowingly become a slave of the evil spirit. He had secretly helped it spread the news, and the evil spirit had sought me and Miss Sharon's help to numb us into thinking that we are only ones who can rescue it. For this, it didn't mind betraying its descendants. Klein was alarmed as he felt that he had been fooled by an evil spirit. Okay. Next chapter. I'm excited to see where this whole evil spirit, like, side quest is going to take us. You know, okay, hold on. I know it's not a side quest, but I'm curious to see where this is going to take us. But let me quickly update this, and let's fix that alarm. Chapter 608. Is that Christina plushie behind you? You know it. Steins Gate. Hold up. Quick brag, Moon. I bought this sucker. Man, having this shit inverted is so weird. I bought this sucker in Akihabara, Japan. I went into the same radio tower that Okaben is looking up at. I forgot in like episode 3 or 4. I went inside that same radio tower. I found her plushie. I was like, I have to buy it. Like, ain't no shot I don't buy it. Here in Japan, here in Akihabara. Like, exactly where literally Steins Gate take place. I had to buy it. Look, I have more stuff back there. I haven't sorted everything out. But let's keep reading. Chapter 608 is called I just moved my camera. Chapter 608 is called Professional. The endless gray fog silently before... Wait. Are we still recording? Yes, we are still recording. Your die was turned at 6. Ooh. All right. Guess we got good luck. The endless gray fog... Wait, I'm not even playing music. Wait, no, hold up. Wrong music. All right, let's start it again. Let's try this again. The endless gray fog hung silently before a light scraping noise on the bronze table sounded. Klein changed his seating posture and began placing more weight on the details regarding the evil spirit. He was more and more convinced that Miss Sharon and himself had neglected the possibility of something happening in Rafter Pound. This is beyond the power of the Red Priest Pathway conspirer. Furthermore, this is even closer to a common fraud. There's only the use of supernatural powers and details. Therefore, even if I have arrived in mysterious space above the gray fog, I would passively have my senses fooled. I would have only discovered the problem by proactively considering and analyzing the situation. If it wasn't for Mr. Isaac, who knew of the evil spirit suspected to be the dead Red Angel Medici, I wouldn't have realized this problem. Never have we ever. If it wasn't for Mr. Zick, who knew of the evil spirit suspected to be the Red Angel Priest Medici, I wouldn't have realized this problem, nor would I have hired Miss Magician to seek out any abnormalities on William Street. After a few minutes of contemplation, Klein conjured a pen and paper, preparing to use the divination to confirm his theories. After deliberating for a moment, he finally penned the sentence for using dream divination, Baronet Rafterpound's current situation. After putting down his dark red fountain pen, Klein held a piece of paper with his divination stated and leaned back to his chair. He recalled the information he had regarding Rafterpound before closing his eyes. Wow, I still have the flash on for my phone from the fire alarm. One sec. All right, we're going to read from right here. After a few seconds of contemplation, Klein conjured a pen and paper, preparing to use divination to confirm his theories. After deliberating for a moment, he finally penned the sentence for dream divination, Baronet Rafterpound's current situation. After putting down the dark red fountain pen, Klein held a piece of paper with the divination statement and leaned back in his chair. He first recalled this information he had regarding Rafterpound before closing eyes, chanting silently and entering cognition. Klein's thoughts rapidly calmed down as he quickly entered a dream state. In a gray world, disconnected scenes flashed past before finally fixating on Unit 29 on Civilist Street. Inside the warm activity room, Rafterpound was dressed in cotton pajamas, holding a wine cup with red liquid. He was standing silently by the window, looking at Backland Police Station headquarters diagonally across the street. This baronet had gray sideburns and puffy eye sockets that were tainted with blackish green colors. The wrinkles on his forehead and the corners of his eyes and mouth were so pronounced that it exceeded what someone in his 40s should look like. His pupils weren't dilated in a very serious manner, but they were abnormal. His cheeks were flushed red as he had a furtive smile. He looked slightly abnormal compared to the last time Klein met him. Indeed, something is wrong with him. Klein left the dream and began considering how he would deal with the evil spirit. Without a doubt, he had his usual train of thought for such matters. Under a situation where he was unable to contact Miss Sharon, his first reaction was to report this matter. But how should it be reported? Klein considered it seriously and conjured the world's figure as he made him pray. Through a reliable channel, pass this information to the Church of the Evernight Goddess and the Church of the Goddess Machinery. Oh, it's going down, bro. All right, the seeds and the cogs are starting to turn for Volume 3. The information is high-level spies of the FASIC and Intis are gathering at William Street to an unknown motives. Reward £100. Whoa, I thought my mic was falling. Oh, shit, it is falling. Reward £100. This was an explanation Klein thought after repeated consideration, directly revealing the King of Angels, Red Priest, the Medici family, or the Tudor dynasty ruins would indeed garner the attention of the church and military, but it would also make it Miss Magician, who reported the matters, to be targeted by the official organizations. There were huge risks involved. Not only was using a high-level spies from FASIC and Intis are gathered at William Street, relatively milder, something which ordinary beyonders had a chance of noticing, but it was also something that would make the churches and the military wary. They would send out the corresponding experts to employ the most effective methods. As for the subsequent fruits of the investigation, it was all thanks to their contributions that had nothing to do with the reporting party. Klein had considered getting Mr. Zick to help, but ultimately chose mostly chose to abandon the thoughts. This was because the evil spirit was suspected to be the King of Angels and was very dangerous. Mr. Zick, who was still in the stage of recovering, might not be able to deal with it. After some thought, Klein turned the conjured scene into a stream of light and transmitted it into the Crimson Star representing the magician. Backland Sherwood Borough. When Forrest received the response from Mr. World, she was taken aback. There are high-level spies from the FASIC and Intis, she exclaimed to herself, believing that there was no way she could infer something like that with the information she had provided. However, she quickly felt at ease, believing that the reason why Mr. World has suspicions of abnormalities in William Street was precisely because he had received the corresponding intel of high-level spies. Once he confirmed that the appearances of people from FASIC and Intis, it was easy for him to make such a conclusion. Pass this information to the Church of the Evernight and the Church of Steam. Isn't that a euphemistic way of saying report? Unfortunately, I won't be able to watch from the sidelines, or I'm sure a great show would unfold. Forrest wasn't a stranger to reporting matter. After all, her housemate and good friend was a bounty hunter. She quickly had an idea, deciding to hand the matter, reporting the intel to the experienced Shio. When she came out of the bedroom, she saw Shio sitting on the sofa. She was flipping through the... We haven't seen Shio in a cool minute. I know we've seen her volunteering, but we haven't had that many interactions with her. When she came out of the bedroom, she saw Shio sitting on the sofa. She was flipping through the documents about her target, raising her head to grab at her messy blonde hair from time to time and appearing extremely serious. Forrest casually picked up an item and embedded her motives and came over the sofa. She handed over the item. Here, have a piece of cake. Cake. Chainsaw Man. I don't like this foreshadowing. Shio glanced at the cake slathered with layers of cream. Without losing focus, she raised her hand to grab it. At this moment, Forrest flipped her wrist and the cake in her palm and had turned into a golden decorated flower. Shio and Forrest? I like them. I love them. I ship them. I think they're like my favorite like duo. Like whenever we see duos, they are my favorite duo. Surprised, she asked with a smile. Shio couldn't help but roll her eyes. Stop your performance. I prefer food. All right, I have a matter for you. 70 pounds. Forrest smiled and sat down. Bruh. After, oh, did you understand that reference? Wait, no spoilers, Cammy. No spoilers. No Chainsaw Man spoilers. But if you know, you know. After first dealing with the evil spirits matters, Klein returned to the real world and held a ritual in passing. He brought the radio transceiver, which... Oh, wait, hold up. Yes, Audrey and our beautiful Susie are a beautiful pair. They cannot be rivaled. But like between two human interactions, I do like Shio and Forrest. Like I do like how they're like these two like really close friends that are like there for each other no matter what. And I like that. And I do like the bond that Trissy has. Why do I keep saying Trissy? That Audrey has with Susie. I love it. Susie. Oh my god. I've been saying it wrong. Oh my goodness. This really feels like a horror movie. I didn't read this part. After first dealing with the evil spirit matter, Klein returned to the real world, held a ritual. Sissy Baka. After first... Wait. Yeah, I read this. I scrolled down too much. After first dealing with the evil spirits matter, Klein returned to the real world and held a ritual passing. He brought the radio transceiver, which had been placed above the gray fog for several days, back to the first-class master bedroom. He lay in bed and used cognition to recover his energy until he was awoken by the tapping sounds. When Klein opened his eyes, the crimson moonlight had already shone in, blanketing the dim room like a veil, as well as the radio transceiver, which had automatically spewed out illusory white paper. This really feels like a horror movie. A shame it connected to the magic mirror without any moral integrity or bottom line. Klein's has he no shame? Susie. Got it. Klein sat up and walked over. He saw the lines of lowness on the illusory white paper. Honorable existence about above the SPARROW, your loyal and humble servant Rhodes has arrived and would like to greet you. I feel like our Rhodes and 017, because she smiled at Klein, like they have to like know of Klein or like the idea of the Fool or like an entity that's above the gray fog, right? Like they've probably followed the entity that's been above the gray fog before, and now it's like Klein's turn, so by default they like him or they worship him, has arrived and would like to greet you. Do you have something you would like to test me on? Look at this. This was what I called smooth talking. This is what a professional is like. In that instant, Klein really wished to pull Darkwill into the room to witness the magic mirror's art of communication. I clearly have questions to ask it, but it becomes a situation of my testing, and it even threw in a question. Klein controlled the curling of his mouth and replied in a deep voice, yes. Please speak. The ignorant and limited Rhodes is ready. Amidst the tapping sounds, the illusory paper no longer produced lowness, but instead produced a fawning smile face. This is already the emergence of emotions. This fellow evolves really quickly. Klein directly asks, where can I obtain a mystical item which can seal the beyond powers of others? Yeah, here we go, dude. The tapping sound suddenly became intense as the illusory white paper quickly produced scenes like a screenshot from a movie. There were places which Klein was familiar with, such as Tingan City, St. Selena Cathedral, Chanas Gate. The black-haired, green-eyed, handsome poet, Leonard Mitchell, a middle-aged man who sat on the sofa smiling at the noble ladies opposite him. Who was this? A middle-aged man who sat on the sofa smiling at the noble ladies opposite of him, and a young, arrogant lady who was loitering in the sewers. There were a total of 12 scenes, and finally a line of lowness text appeared. These are the ones that you can easily or convincingly acquire one from. So we go with Leonard. There are a lot, but they are either very complicated or troublesome, or they range at the highest levels which I cannot see clearly. Not bad. He actually knows to help me filter. Not bad. He actually knows to help me filter. This is a fantasy and mystical version of Google. Or Rhodes is just a mystical version of Google. Klein gently nodded and said, despite knowing the answer, it's your turn to ask. You have already answered. Amidst the tapping, Rhodes You have already answered. Amidst the tapping of roads, unsurprisingly, answer appeared on the illusionary white paper. Klein chuckled inwardly and asked, "Where will Leonard Mitchell be staying for the time being?" Oh shit, dude. Oh my goodness. Where will he be staying for the time being? Let me find my place. The tapping sounds became intense again as one of the scenes after another appeared before Klein's eyes. It was a famous landmark in Backland, a towering Gothic bell tower with the bell of the order hanging above. There was a road sign on the road with the words Pinster Street. It was Unit 7 along a row of terrace houses. In it, there was the extremely suave Leonard Mitchell wearing a black coat and red gloves. He was Klein's poet friend who was reading through the doissers of Lenavus and Capim. This fellow is in Backland, and he's investigating the Lenavus and Capim cases. What the hell? The corner of Klein's mouth twitched slightly as he carefully thought of the clues he had left behind in the 2 cases. What do you mean, what clues? The cards, bro. There's no music, but my brain is fired up. I don't even care. Oh, is the music not being picked up? The music is so low, it doesn't pick it up, dude. I'm sorry. Let me rewrite this. There you go. The music is just so low, it doesn't pick it up all the time. 7 Pin Street. Where was it? He was checking his clues. It's your turn to ask. A messenger, Leonard, illuminate. I read this. Left behind. The only clue is that Detective Sherlock Moriarty is involved in 2 cases. If Leonard enters Daisy's dream, he should discover this point. But I already kept a beard and had a pretty good disguise back then. It's unlikely that he can recognize me in the rather blurry scene in the dream and portraits. As long as he doesn't recognize me, it doesn't matter what has problems with Sherlock Moriarty have to do with me and GERHMAN Sparrow. Klein retracted his thoughts and memorized Leonard Mitchell's current residence. 7 Pinester Street, Backland. He planned on entrusting the Moon Emlyn White to visit Leonard Mitchell the day after tomorrow and use the badge of the Hermits of Fate to purchase a mystical item. I hope my dear poet friend has additional items for spare. If not, the price will definitely be a great premium. Klein tearfully answered and said to the radio transceiver, "It's your turn to ask." He was honestly curious as to what Rhodes would ask him this time. Amidst the clacking sounds, the radio transceiver spewed out new illusionary paper. On it was a question composed in lowness. "Great Master, Leonard Mitchell has a huge secret. Do you wish to know?" Here we go. This can also be considered a question. Klein, of course. Yes, let's say yes. This can also be considered a question. Klein raised his head in amusement to surprise as he looked at the crimson moon, which was silently illuminating the dark sea. I scrolled down too much? Oh my god, I scrolled down too much. Oh my god, I scrolled down too much. This can be considered a question. Klein raised his head in amusement and surprise as he looked at the crimson moon, which was silently illuminating the dark sea. Soon, he honestly gave an answer. Yes. What a question, right? Like, you just want me to tell you? Yeah, sure. His question was like, do you want to ask me a question? Good question. Yes. All right, next chapter, 609 reading. Chapter 609 is paying a visit. Amidst the clacking sounds, the radio transceiver spewed out a brand new piece of illusionary white paper under the crimson moonlight in the dim environment. Inside Leonard Mitchell's resides an angel from the Zoroast family. He once changed my question. Angel, there's an angel residing in Leonard's body, an angel from the 4th epoch Zoroast. This is new. Like, now we know the parasite's family, because we knew he was a high sequence, but we didn't know exactly from what family he was. Amidst the clacking sounds, the radio inside Leonard Mitchell resides an angel from the Zoroast family. He once changed my question. Angel, there's an angel residing in Leonard's body, an angel from the 4th epoch Zoroast family. Although Klein was mentally prepared to hear an incredible secret, he was still shocked by what Rhodes divulged. He was deeply concerned and surprised as well. An angel referred to a beyond art sequence 1 or 2, making them rather close to the state of a true god. Sequence 1 has to be Parasite. It has to be it. Zoroast. I know, I've been saying it wrong. State of a true god. They have all sorts of mystical characteristics, and they can even influence low sequence beyonders of the same pathway to a certain extent and range. They were mighty figures who stood at the pinnacle of the real world in the various churches. Only their popes, pontiffs, patriarchs, as well as certain legendary aesthetics were grounded angels. Therefore, Klein believed that being latched onto by a parasite of the level wasn't a good thing. In the dark 2nd epoch, the angels all had their divine names, and they were subordinates to the ancient gods. I have indirectly or directly interacted with many angels. Blasphemer among Calamity, Queen Kohana something, the evil spirit suspected to be the Red Angel Medici, Tail Devourer Ouroboros, as described by Little Sun, Miracle Invoker Zorotul from the Roselle's Diaries, son of the creator Adam, Hermes, who cannot be confirmed if he's an angel or not, Snake of Fate Will Ossipton, who's still inside the mother's womb. That's all 8. That's literally, that's 8 angels right there. Upon from the last 2, the others appear to be very evil. All right, so we only got 2 good ones. Even the words they leave behind might make the reader go crazy or lose control. Would my dear poet ultimately end up as a sacrificial item of this angel parasite? This can explain why he thinks of himself as the protagonist of a play, the special one, and he was willing to help me hide my secret. The Zoros family is in control of the Marauder pathway, which is the pathway that can steal the beyond powers of others. That's why Leonard was able to find and participate in the gathering of the Hermits of Fate. It's no wonder he offered to use the Blood Vessel Thief. It's because he has a grandpa to help him. He was able to instantly steal Megusa's most potent power. What's Hermits of Fate? They just a bunch of thieves and frauds. At best, the target of their theft and fraud is that of time and fate. In short, my dear poet's grandpa isn't a good person. I have to find a chance to warn him. But here comes the problem. They're always together, and warning will only expedite the problem unless he gets pulled above the gray fog and we cleanse him. I think that's what we need to do. Kohenim? I think I mispronounced it, right? Sorry. You guys are definitely hearing the mad ravings today with all these mispronunciations. Klein's thoughts raced, but he ultimately failed to come up with an option he can act upon. All he could do was temporarily shelve the matter and plan on asking Mr. Zik, the Snake of Mercury, Wool Ossipton, to see if they had any solutions. In those few minutes, he even thought of using Blasphemer Ramon. To put it simply, it was to divulge information to the son of the creator that the angel from the Zoroast family was residing in Leonard Mitchell's body, getting him to eat up the parasite. I don't know if it's going to be that easy, man. According to what Klein knew, the Amon family supported the Tudor Empire during the 4th epoch, with the Zoroist family belonging to the Solomon Empire, making the 2 enemies. Furthermore, according to the law beyond characteristics of conservation, powerhouses from the same pathway would have greater conflicts the higher their sequences was. This was akin to the battle between the 2 snakes of Mercury. Unfortunately, this solution was restricted by reality and was ultimately abandoned by Klein. This was because he didn't know where to find Blasphemer Ramon. Secondly, he was afraid that the Zoroast battle at the level of angels would directly destroy Leonard Mitchell. And thirdly, a powerful Amon might be a very bad and serious matter. Indeed, it will. I'll first get Emlyn to attempt the transaction and observe the actual situation. I can decide on what to do when I know more. Klein retracted his thoughts and said to the radio transceiver, which was connected to your roads, ask your question. The clacking of the radio transceiver became increasingly brisker as the illusory white paper was gently spewed out. No, there's no need. This is an addendum to my questions, which doesn't need to abide by the rules. Great master, I sense a special item outside the room, but I am unable to see through it. Can you tell me what it is? The magic mirror is impressive. It seems to be able to see everything. It just suffers from interference when it deals with high-level matters, as though there was a mosaic. Klein calmly replied, die of probability. Amidst the tapping sounds, Rhodes presented the new words of the illusory piece of white paper. So it's that thing, great master. You can ask your question. Klein thought for a moment before saying, what do you have to mention regarding the dire probability? At this point in time, the radio transceiver seemed to brighten up and no longer looked as gloomy as before. The speed at which the illusory white paper spewed out slowed down. It's a fellow that's especially petty and bears grudges. He's petty and bears grudges. You have to quickly give it to someone else. Master, you have to quickly give it to someone else. It's an item formed from the uniqueness of the Wheel of Fortune. It's an item formed from the uniqueness. So he has an item that's directly connected to I still don't know necessarily what's uniqueness. People have told me to just keep reading and it elaborates more later on. But it's an item formed from the uniqueness of the Wheel of Fortune. You can give it to another Snake of Fate and they will be very grateful. In short, it's not suitable to be your servant. The aura is dissipating. Your loyal and humble servant erodes. You have no choice but to leave. Finally, let me praise you once again, my great master, the ruler above the spirit world. Bye-bye. Fucking erodes, dude. That is so funny. Let me praise you once again. Uniqueness. The dire probability is actually the unique. The die of probability is actually the uniqueness of the monster pathway. So this is what directly allows you to go from sequence 1 to 0. So Will would need this, or any other snakes of Mercury are going to need this. And whatever this Wheel of... So this was taken from the Wheel of Fortune. Oh, let's keep reading. This is the first time I'm encountering a so-called uniqueness. It really is terrifying that can... It really is terrifying that can digitize the entire real world. It can digitize the entire real world. The Wheel of Time. Oh, wait. Wheel of Fortunes, not Wheel of Time. Wheel of Fortunes will be like... Will. I'm seeing a... Is there a connection here, maybe? It really is terrifying that it can digitize the entire world. The monster pathway is also called the Wheel of Fortune pathway. Sequence 0... Oh, shot! Sequence 0 is the Wheel of Fortune. Klein looked at the... All right. Sequence 0 name drop for freaking monster. Wheel of Fortune. Klein looked at the radio transceiver, which had returned to normal, and he temporarily reined in his thoughts. He didn't harbor any greed towards the die probability. This was because it wasn't part of the seer pathway, and it came with extremely terrifying negative side effects. He was also afraid that what time this die, which bore grudges, would attract Tail Devourer or Ouroboros over. Even if this thing can be isolated and sealed when placed above the Grey Fog, there's a high chance of it digitizing the entire mysterious space, and the future of the Terror Gathering might end up becoming a tabletop role-playing game. Klein had never come into contact. You know what? That's a quick plug. They should make a table board game. I'll play it. We'll play that together on stream, dude. Klein had never come into contact with this item of this level before, so he was unable to determine what would happen if he were to throw the die of probability above the Grey Fog. He decided to continue intimidating the die as he would successfully send it to the Aravi Island, where there would be the live School of Thought members who had the means to seal it. As for the problem of the mission exceeding the payments he would receive, he didn't mind it. This was because the greatest benefit he would gain was the friendship of the Snake of Fate, Will Ossipton. Buckland Harvest Church. Emlyn White held a strange badge, was the size of an eyeball, and chuckled inwardly. The world sure is long-winded. Isn't it just finding a Nighthawk named Leonard Mitchell at the Pointston Street in Northborough? He even specifically emphasized that the person had a secret and that there's a high chance of me being pulled into a dream. This is showing doubts in my ability. Emlyn stood up and changed into a tailcoat and white shirt. He then turned his head to look out of the window. He has a secret while I have mine. I dare... I have my own secret. Oh my god, the two main characters are gonna finally meet each other face to face. This is gonna be funny. Yeah, new sequence 0 drop. Wheel of Fortune. All right. This is getting hype. I'm getting excited, dude. He has a secret while I have mine. I dared to be the Lord Nibs or the other Earls are secretly watching me. If anything were to happen, they will definitely provide me with the help to a certain degree. Being pulled into a dream, Emily contemplated for a few seconds before using the materials which were rich in spirituality to concoct a blue medicine. Putting away the bottled medicine, he picked up a silk top hat and walked out of the break room. After bidding farewell to Bishop Trotsky, he left the Harvest Church. It was still morning, but Backland's sky was gloomy. There was a faint fog that spread like water. Emlyn squinted his eyes and wore his hat, murmuring to himself, the sunlight is a little blinding. He hailed a rental carriage and went straight for the Stream metro station. He spent 6 pence on a first-class ticket to Northborough. This saved him a lot more time than he headed straight there. About 40 minutes later, he arrived at the destination and stood outside the door of 7 Pine Street. Emlyn politely rang the doorbell and patiently waited for a minute. And he opened the door? Just as he was about to write a note and stuff it into the hole beneath the door to schedule a better time to visit, he suddenly heard languid footsteps approach. Doesn't smell like a servant. Emlyn nodded indiscriminately and took out the medicine he had concocted in advance and clearly drank it. Then he washed the door open and saw a black-haired, green-eyed man appear before him. Oh, our beautiful poet. He was dressed in the homewear, a white shirt and black trousers. His shirt was untucked. Whew, it's getting spicy. Allowing it to flutter gently in the wind. Oh my god, my poet. Amidst his sovereignness were hints of uninhabited freedom. Although he's a believer of the Evernight, I have to say that his looks are barely comparable to us and Gwen. Emlyn took off his hat and gently raised his chin. Good morning. Are you Mr. Leonard Mitchell? Leonard frowned indiscriminately as he looked at the handsome red-eyed gentleman. He raised his hands to cover his mouth and indifferently yawned. You are. Oh, yeah, good morning. My visitor, I have something I would like to speak with you. Emlyn didn't reveal his identity as he smiled with rather obvious arrogance. This attitude gave Leonard a baffling sense of familiarity. It was as though he had seen a former self, the person who always thought of himself as being the most special, the protagonist of the era. One protagonist meets another. He's like, you have the parasite? I have our ancient goddess backing me, dude. This is so fucking funny, dude. Oh shit, he is the most special, of course. It's like one special character to another special character. Oh man. He raised his hands and covered, you are a visitor. Wait, I just read this. This attitude, I just read this. Being the most special, the protagonist of this era, he cleared his throat and said, I'm only an ordinary citizen. I do not accept missions. If you have any issues, then you can find a private detective. Emlyn White smiled and said, this matter is something only you can complete. He looked to his sides and continued, I wish to purchase a mystical item that can steal the beyonder powers of others. Leonard's eyes focused as he asked in a deep voice, who are you? At this moment, Emlyn didn't immediately answer. Instead, he surveyed his surroundings and clicked his tongue with a smile. Impressive. I nearly failed to realize that I had been pulled into a dream. Shit. You're so badass. You think you're the main character? I'm the main character. I almost fell for that. He wasn't in a rush to leave as he took out a small badge he received from the world in front of Leonard Mitchell's solemn expression. Leonard took a glance as his expression eased slightly. He cocked his head slightly and paused for a few seconds. Suddenly, Emlyn White saw the scene around him rapidly shatter and vanish like shattering glass. Leonard sneered at the point inside of the house. Let's talk inside. Grandpa... Oh, wait. Oh, they're referencing Grandpa. Like, who's Grandpa? Grandpa is a common trope in Chinese web novels where a powerful entity resides in the protagonist. Oh, that's a trope. Grandpa is a common trope in Chinese web novels where a powerful entity resides in their protagonist, giving him knowledge to one-up the others. A well-known one is Grandpa Dohring from The Coiling Dragon. I've never read that. Okay. All right, that's cool. I didn't know that was a thing. All right, next chapter. Yes. Chapter 610 is called Throwing the Die. Upon hearing Leonard Mitchell's invitation, Emlyn didn't show any fear. He held his top hat and wore a subtle smile before entering the house without any qualms. He didn't take off his coat, as potions professors often brought several supplementary items. It wouldn't look pleasant once the concealment of those items was gone. Emlyn sat down with his starched tailcoat leaning back into the support as he leisurely said, actually, there's no need to go through the trouble. If you have it, name the price. Otherwise, just frankly say it. Of course, I'm very certain you have one. He chuckled as his bright eyes reflected Leonard Mitchell's figure that didn't mind the tidiness of his getup. The feeling of me knowing you have a secret with you not knowing anything about me left Emlyn extremely pleased as he felt a strong sense of superiority. Oh my god. Emlyn I like him. He's such a fun character. Leonard used his fingers to comb the raven black hair casually and sat on the chair opposite Emlyn. He didn't show any panic or puzzlement as he said with a smile, at the very least, I need to know who wants it. Perhaps it's me, or perhaps it's my friend. Emlyn tipped his chin as he smiled gently. Leonard squinted his eyes as he cocked his head, as though in thought. Finally, he laughed. All right, since you've already taken out the badge, I'll answer you frankly. I do have a mystical item that can be used to steal the beyonder powers of others, but I only have that one item. If you should buy it, 7,000 pounds, no negotiation. 7,000 pounds, a mystical item of that kind is that expensive? Although he didn't have to pay for it, Emlyn was still shocked. He nearly failed to maintain his bearing as a sanguine. He automatically converted how much money that could be used in exchange for dolls and dresses. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining, Merlin. After 2 seconds of thought, Emlyn revealed a smile and said, I'll consider it. I'll answer you in 2 days. Sure. Leonard curled the corners of his lips. After leaving 7 Pinter Street, Emlyn hired a rental carriage as though nothing had happened as he headed for the steam metro station in Northborough before heading back to the bridge of Southborough. Taking off his hat, he looked back at the street, which had the carriages of pedestrians passing through Emlyn's shuckles, and took a step into the Harvest Church. In between a tree and black street lamp, an inconspicuous shadow... I read that wrong. Inconspicuous smile. Find my place. Oh, shit. Hold up. Season 1. Yeah, it's Grandpa. His shadow. Yeah, it was his shadow from Season 1. And between a tree and black street lamp, inconspicuous shadow suddenly moved, revealing the black-haired, green-eyed Leonard Mitchell. His appearance was silenced, but it didn't garner the attention of any pedestrian. Someone from the Church of Earth and Mother. Leonard frowned and silently as he muttered to himself, He paused for 2 seconds before leaving the Rose Street where the Harvest Church was. This is from the trailer. So it was Grandpa in the trailer. That's freaking cool, dude. 7,000 pounds. Why doesn't he just rob a bank? Above the gray fog, Klein, who had received the feedback from Emlyn, nearly blurted out. As GERHMAN SPARROW, he had previously said that something similar, but the two situations about the mood was completely different. Using the bounty from the Golden Dream third mate, Flowery Bowtie Jodson, as reference, Klein inferred that a similar mystical item was worth about 5,000 pounds. Even if there was a premium, it would be maxed out at 6,000 pounds. Who knew that Leonard Mitchell would directly ask for 7,000 pounds? Could it be an item left behind from a high sequence Beyonder, making the act of stealing Beyonder powers just one of its effects? No, if that's really the case, the price would start from 10,000 pounds? I don't know how much we're reading, but we're going to go as long as we can. Knock on wood. My dear poet, why didn't I know you as a profiting merchant? You clearly exhibit a free and easy demeanor and show no interest in money. Klein couldn't help but sigh, since he had a clue and show a glimmer of hope in how it was something that could be resolved with money. Klein didn't wish to seek out the channels to prevent any mishaps from happening. He quickly calculated his wealth and discovered that it was an acceptable price, including the 300 pounds advance from the apocryphy of the 5,400 pounds, bounty from the worm tongue, and the cash I got from the bodies, and subtracting the 200 pounds to be paid to Miss Magician, I have a total he has a lot of money. I have a total of 12,767 pounds in cash and 5 gold coins. This isn't included my 3 solely and 8 pence in change. In addition, Miss Justice will pay the 2,000 pounds she owes me before the end of the week, as well as the 1,800 pounds from the psychiatrist characteristic. I'm actually richer than I thought I was. Even in Backland, I can be considered. He's a tycoon. I can be considered a tycoon. Klein inhaled and didn't hesitate any further. He made the cash fly out from the junk pile and landed on the table. He carefully counted 7,500 pounds in cash and placed them inside. 7,000 pounds for the mystical item and 500 pounds for Emlyn's hazardous pay. He has hazard pay. Sigh, after going through all the effort to go past 10,000, more than half of it will be gone in an instant. Klein conjured the world and made him pose in a praying manner and to inform Emlyn that there will be no problems with going through with that transaction. 15 minutes later, a ritual was being held to receive the bestowment from the ritual. In addition, Klein also made the world warn Emlyn to not be in a rush to complete the deal after getting the cash. He had to wait until tomorrow. This was because he was afraid that the angel from the Zorst family inside Leonard Mitchell would sense the Grey Fox aura on the cash. Oh, he wanted to wait so the aura can dissipate. He wanted an airing process just like back when he gave Emlyn the badge. 15 minutes later, Klein glanced at the cash pile, which had shrunk by more than half inside before returning to the real world. It was already 10:40 on a Friday. They were about 8 hours from Viralvideo Island. In time to intimidate the dire probability again, Klein muttered, held the ritual, and brought out the iron cigar case, which contained the all-black eye. He guessed that Darkwell would suspect something, so he deliberately brought the die to the washroom to deal with it. Seeing the die probability calmed down once again, Klein quickly dealt with the all-black eye and the iron cigar case. After heaving a long sigh of relief, he did a silent count of times. It should be enough to last until Darkwell hands in the contract. There's no need to deal with it again. With this in mind, Klein began to consider another problem with a certain degree of concern. The all-black eye had appeared in front of the true creator before, and is his mental corruption. To take it out once every few hours might cause him to lock onto me. So he can't use it that much. If he uses it a lot, he like risks the creator locking onto him. Okay. So it's like it has pros and cons. Allowing him to send powerhouses to seek me out. However, it was only 1 or 2 minutes each time, so the problem isn't that serious. Even if he senses it, their estimate of the area wouldn't be too precise. So when it involves a true creator, there's no way to determine things with divination. I can only raise my guard. Thankfully, this is the last minute and it will take only about 8 hours to reach our destination. Why am I raising flags for myself? Pew, pew, pew. I was thinking of anything. Klein picked up the dire probability and returned to the living room and saw the chubby apocryphy slumped on the reclining chair, looking completely exhausted. As for the owl, Harry, it looked like it was brimming with energy, as though it didn't need any rest. These are the different traits that different creatures gain from taking the same potion. Different creatures gain different effects from the same potion. At the very least, Miss Justice has never mentioned that she doesn't need sleep. It's a uniqueness that comes about because of an owl's biological makeup. Sigh, I don't know much about owls.
Indeed, I'm just a keyboard warrior who is only a jack of all trades. Klein said, I feel like he is actually a jack of all trades, and he doesn't know how true it is. Klein sat on the sofa and placed the milky white die into the ring and patiently waited for the evening to arrive when the ship was scheduled to dock. Time ticked by the sun gradually set in the west. At this point in time, Klein, who had his eyes closed, suddenly sat up, having an extremely danger befall the area. It had exceeded Seer's spiritual intuition and the clown's intuition for danger. It seems to stem from the formless gray fog which strangely rippled around him. An enemy, Tel Devar Ouroboros. What? An enemy, Tel Devar Ouroboros of the Aurora Orders of Saint. Klein opened his eyes and began considering countermeasures with an abnormality serious expression. Any mistake in time such as this would require him to consider matters of being resurrected. What? As for Darkwill and Harry, there was absolutely no way for them to be spared. In the beginning, he hoped that the visitor could only vaguely sense the general area and might not be able to find him or the die of probability. However, when he considered how he was on a ship with no one around on sea, it wasn't too hard to lock on the target. The problems would only become worse when that happened, when given up being the only choice. I read that wrong. Above the liner, space was suddenly torn open and an invisible door filled with complicated symbols appear. Okay, it's a door summoning. Two pale hands reached out from the door and suddenly pulled backwards, allowing the entire body to walk out. He wore a black bonnet and a classic dark robe, a favorite among rings. What the fuck is this? However, he didn't look past 40. His brown hair was slightly nast? No, dark robe? Dark Emperor? No, his brown hair was slightly curled, which seemed abnormally hard. Countless illusory images darted across his dark eyes, as though layers after layers of chaotic words were hidden within. As Klein's sense of danger intensified, just a change in expression frightened Darkwill and Harry enough for them to freeze. He didn't hesitate as to follow the plans he had made for such situations. He leaned forward and picked up the die probability, determined the outcome of the malefic visitor who had just revived. I want 1 point. Klein said in a deep and soft voice, and he threw... No shot he's able to control the die right here. He threw out the milky white die. He subconsciously prayed to the goddess, hoping that the die, which had recently been intimidated, was obedient enough and played a meaningful role. Meanwhile, he appeared extremely calm to prevent the die from sensing his anxiety and take the opportunity to cause problems. As the die probability rolled several times while pouncing and clicking the sound, it fixed at the blood red 1 point. Oh shit. No shot he's able to control his fate now. Above the liner, the black-robed man, who didn't look 40, had the entire liner reflected within his eyes. He emanated his spirituality and scanned the surroundings. He extended his hand to grab the space in front of him as he suddenly pulled a nearby invisible door. The powerhouse stepped in and vanished from the spot. And he's gone. He's like, I didn't find anything. Inside the first-class cabin, Klein immediately felt the danger distancing itself from him. He couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. He looked at the die probability on the coffee table and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. If this die didn't have such a negative side effect and could be utilized to its full extent, it would be a divine artifact. A divine artifact. So you have sealed artifacts, and I remember there was holy artifacts, but now it can be considered a divine artifact. As expected of a grade 0 sealed artifact, as expected of the uniqueness of the monster pathway. Only at this point in time did Dark will find the courage again as he carefully asked, what just happened? Klein maintained his posture and calmly replied, there's no need for you to know. I understand. The more I know, the greater the danger I'll be in. Darkwill wiped the cold sweat off his face. Hey, yo, wait, dude. That was cool. There weren't any more accidents in the next few hours. After the sun went down, the horizon and sky became completely dark. Klein finally saw a towering lighthouse appear not too far away. They made it! They made it safely and soundly. All right, so now we're going to find the Master's Master, and he's going to get his full payout and get the remaining 700 pounds. Bet. Next chapter, 611, Fate Councilor. Okay, I guess we found the Master's Master, or the Teacher's Teacher, right? All right, next chapter. All right, next chapter, chapter 611 is called Fate Councilor. Oravi was situated northwest of the Rorsted Archipelago. The straight line distance wasn't too great, but the safe sea route had required ships to take many twists and turns, causing the distance traveled to increase by several hundred noctual miles. It was originally a primitive island that harbored many kinds of beyonder creatures without any humans inhabiting it. After the hunting era came to an end, the Lone Kingdom banished certain criminals there, causing the Oravi Island to gradually have villagers and towns. When more eastern islands were discovered and colonized, the area attracted many new immigrants due to the convenience of the sea route and its rich natural resources, making it a rather thriving port city. The light from the lighthouse tower appeared so warm in the dark environment as it lit liners towards the harbor from them to dock. We finally arrived. My gratitude to the Crimson Moon and the fate for blessings. Darkwell jumped off from the last gangway and stepped onto the solid cemented ground. To be precise, apart from the fate, you should thank the fool and see God for their blessings. Klein held his leather suitcase with one hand as he tapped his cane. Darkwell properly put away the ring box which contained the dire probability, and he didn't delay in asking where the Bellum Carnet stayed. He rented the carriage and went straight for the St. Draco Cathedral. He then entered the magnificent bell tower, which boldly used the colors of red, blue, and yellow. Inside the bell tower, Carrot had a cramped room he could call his own. Knock, knock, knock. Darkwell knocked on the door thrice, eager to hand over the item on his person. With a creak, the brown wooden door opened and out came a large man who was slightly hunched. He looked to be in his 40s, and individually there was nothing strange about his facial features, but when he put together, it was filled with an unharmonious vibe. Klein only took a glance and discovered that his eyes weren't leveled, his nostrils were only different sizes, and his level of facial muscles were slightly loose, causing the corners of his mouth to drop slightly. It was the complete opposite from the right side of his face. Carnet's legs were obviously of different lengths, and one of his arms was thick while the other was thin. His entire body was highly disproportional, making him extremely ugly. Who are you? Dressed in a black robe, Carnet glanced at the duo. Are you the Belmont Carnet? Darkwell asked cautiously. Carnet chuckled with one corner of his mouth raised while the other stayed low. There shouldn't be a second person as ugly as me. Indeed, Darkwell nodded very honestly before laughing. I can tell that you have quite a good state of mind. To be honest, looks don't matter for a man. What's important is that their skills in bed. Tisk, that's because you haven't seen ladies who only have fetishes for good looks. Having experienced the era of celebrities of masses, Klein scoffed from the side. Carnet's expression darkened as he said, I don't wish to discuss such matters. Whoa. Nortical or Ravi Island is just Australia. So they're in Australia. You have problems in that area. No problems. I have different kinds of medicine that can treat all your problems. Before Darkwell finished his sentence, Klein took a step forward, afraid that he would end up being beaten to death. He put his body between them and said in a deep voice, he's Roy King's student? Roy King's student. I figured Roy King once described his traits Carnot? I'm nautical. Damn. The ravings, man. I'm going crazy today. Ms. Wei and invited into the two. His room was extremely thin, with only a single bed and a cabinet which could be used as a dining table. The rostrum was at the bottom of the bell tower. Darkwell pulled out a ring box and handed it to Carnet as he forced a smile. My teacher got me to hand this item to you. Carnot stole a glance at it with a clearly relieved to see 4 points. He said to Darkwell, you aren't as unreliable as your teacher described you to be. I can tell that you didn't attempt to use it. That would have awoken it and make it realize that it's no longer sealed. I'm sorry, it can realize that it's no longer sealed? The chubby apocryphy face blushed red as he honestly said, that's because it's relatively quiet now. In another 1 or 2 hours, it would automatically roll itself. It's best you think of a method to seal it again. Carnet's face twitched. Again? Well, I accidentally dropped it on the ground, and then it came alive. Darkwell wanted to glance at his owl, Harney, but he realized it hadn't followed him in. It was perched outside the bell tower to serve as his sentry. Yeah, it has living characteristics. Got it. So because it has living characteristics, it realized, I'm awoken. I'm awake. Got it. Yo, dude, thank you guys, man. There's like 40 of you guys here right now. Thank you. As I mispronounced the ravings, Carnot's eyes clearly widened as he hunched back, nearly straightened. How did you arrive here? From his point of view, Roy King's student should have long died at the whims of the die. Darkwell hurriedly pointed to GERHMAN Sparrow and said, it's all thanks to this gentleman. He's a powerful adventurer. He provided the most effective protection and temporary method of sealing the die. What method was it? Carnet blurted out the question. Klein laughed and replied, trades. It's a trade secret. I'll do it one more time in the bathroom, but that's all you're gonna get. Carnet's expression changed a few times as he pressed his hands to his chest and bowed. I thank you for your help on behalf of my organization. Darkwell continued. What organization? What are you gonna tell us from your organization? Darkwell continued hiring him Darkwell continued, hiring him costs 1,000 pounds, and at request, the request is to help him find the mystical item with a powerful offensive traits, but without very serious negative side effects. He will purchase at a reasonable price. I only had 300 pounds, so that was all I could pay. I have to rely on you to pay the rest. Carnets fell silent as the corner of his lips twitched. I only have about 100 pounds. Suddenly, there was silence in the bowman's room. The wind from outside blew through the cracks as brushes across the three men's face. Finally, Carnet spoke again. But I have a good item. Perhaps Councilor Ricciardo has the money. I'll lead you to him. From the looks of it, if he trusts us, after all, a fate counselor is in no way comparable to a die probability. If there were really problems with us, there would be no need for us to bring the die over to prevent any accidents and snatch away the uniqueness. Klein watched as Carnet picked up a lantern from the corner of his room. Sorry, I have to burp. At this moment, he secret activated his spirit vision and simply scanned the man. The last school of thought. Okay. Thank you. Why do I have to burp? He scanned the man. Klein nearly pricked his brows with the sight. This was because Carnet's aura's colors were rather unique. There were no problems with his emotional colors, as they were very ordinary. However, ethereal body, which represented the body, appeared unnatural. His heart was green, his head was purple, and his digestive system was yellow. It felt like there were different parts which were mashed together in great disharmony. At times, Carnet's soul also gave the same feeling. A monster that was stitched up internally. What the fuck? So, like, different... Klein made a rough judgment based on what he knew. After Carnet got the lantern, he turned his head to glance at the adventure. GERHMAN Sparrow said without much of an expression, I'm very sensitive to spirit vision. I believe you have noticed certain problems. I'm not a naturally born person. I'm a product of the Church of Earth's martyr attempt to refine the human body. I'm considered a failed specimen, which is why I do not have the ability in that aspect. His final sentence was directed at Darkwell. Carnot did not speak again as he carried the lantern and donned a black robe. He hunched his huge body and used the dim light to walk down the stairs of the dark and silent bell tower. Product of the Church of Earth's mother attempts to refine the human body, but St. Draco Cathedral belongs to the Church of Storms. Since it's a failed specimen, no attention is paid to the Carnet turned his back of the Church of Earth Mother and became a member of the Life School of Thought. This is understandable. Both the Church of Earth Mother and the Life School of Thought hold the Apocryphy pathway, and they... I'm sorry, this isn't tied to the Life School of Thought, right? No. This is something else. Hold the Apocrypha pathway, and they will definitely have some overlapping. But why will the Life School of Thought send this fellow that doesn't seem simple to be a bellman? The Church of the Storms is just a normal disguise, or there's a particular connection between them. Klein followed Carnot in a seemingly calm manner as he walked out the bell tower and circled around the stone bridge. Just as he came too close to the left side of the bridge, Klein suddenly felt something as he looked diagonally upwards. The owl Harry had flown out as well and landed on the tree branch. Kacha. The branch suddenly snapped as Harry plummeted with great difficulty. Did it fly up again without falling to the ground? Darkwell was just about to say something when Carnot explained in a deep voice, Councilor Ricciardo is injured, so his powers are somewhat out of control. Once anyone enters a specific range, they'll be tainted with bad luck. What the fuck? Carnot stopped in his footsteps as he threw the ring box containing the die under the bridge. Mr. Councilor. Oh, wait. Is he talking about him? Councilor? Oh, because he's injured. Carnot stopped in his footsteps as he threw the ring box containing the die under the bridge. Mr. Councilor, Roy King's students have delivered the die. Very good. A hoarse voice sounded from deep within the bridge's belly. A silver-scaled palm reached out from the darkness as he held down the ring box which had fallen onto the mud. Damn. Following that, he opened the ring box and took out the milky white die. His other hand, which was covered in silver scales, also reached out as he held a piece of paper like an item made of leather. This item resembled a water pipe, but its ends were connected. It revealed a grayish-white color under the crimson moonlight. Its surface has many complicated symbols and labels, as well as the many words in Hermes. Text, which pointed to the Snake of Mercury, Will Ossipton. Fate, Councilor Ricciardo pulled the item apart and stuffed the die probability into it before connecting the two ends together. Using the fate as a small scale to seal the die probability with periodic boundary conditions, making it remain in a particular state of slumber or calm. Indeed, Snake of Mercury Wool Ossipton had foreseen such a situation and had made certain preparations. Klein retracted his gaze into a relief, and he had heard Ricardo's hoarse voice. I am already known of your agreement, Mr. GERHMAN SPARROW. I will help you find the mystical item after I've recovered it. There you go. We're going to get him a good item. As for the 700 pounds, I'll immediately augment you with good luck. What a cop-out way is like, I don't need to pay you. I've given you good luck. That is such a cop-out excuse. I've given you good luck. You will find your money. Actually, hold up. No. Maybe he'll find more than 700 pounds. Right? I already know of your agreement, Mr. GERHMAN SPARROW. I will help you find the mystical item after I've recovered. As for the 700 pounds, I'll immediately augment you with good luck. Go to the few casinos in Orarvi and make some bets, and you will receive the corresponding rewards. Remember, do not win more than 200 pounds at each casino. You must not win more than 700 pounds in total. So you can't win more than 200 at a casino, and you can't exceed the 700 pounds. Otherwise, your fate is broken. Which is to say that you don't have the money either. Seeing how you're hiding while injured, it's considered normal to not have money with you. Klein nodded indiscriminately and said, okay. He waited for about 10 seconds without sensing anything. Councilor Richard heaved a sigh of relief and said, you have to become sufficiently lucky? Is that so? Klein chose to believe him and didn't disturb Darko's report to a senior of how his teacher had been imprisoned. Based on Carnot's it almost sounds like Carrot? Based on Carnot's introduction, he found a nearby casino and set up the blackjack table. After about 10 minutes, he walked out of the casino with a blank look. Not only did he not win money, but he had lost a total of 30 pounds. What happened to the good luck? Why did I believe him? Why did I fucking believe that man? That darn old man is terrible. Klein didn't hesitate to return to the stone bridge and approach its belly. That fast, you have pretty good luck. Ricardo laughed as he coughed under the dark bridge. At that moment, Darkone and Harry had already found a nearby inn to live in. Klein replied without a change in expression, I lost. Wait, how the fuck is... Now he's confused. I lost. Ricardo ruminated over the words and couldn't formulate a sentence for quite a long time. A long period of time. In the dark environment, an ordinary owl nervously flew out. Did the owl have something to do with his luck? All right, chapter 612 is called In Hand. How's my audio? It sounds good, right? The two street lamps on either side of the stone bridge silently illuminated the streets, but they were unable to disperse the darkness beneath. Only the crimson moonlight from high above could barely illuminate the brown solely. Hidden under the bridge, fake Councilor Ricciardo remained silent for quite a while, making Klein suspect whether he had already passed away due to his heavy injuries. He had guessed that a large reason as to why the luck augmentation had failed was because of this. Because he died? Just as Klein was about to ask a probing question to determine the situation, Ricardo coughed and said in a deep, hoarse voice, you live up to the reputation of being a powerful adventurer capable of temporarily sealing the die? His augmentation didn't work on him. Because he's that strong. What happened had exceeded my expectations. I'm very curious as to why my luck augmentation on you had failed. Is he just that strong? I'm very regretful that I can't come out and meet you in person. Otherwise, I should be able to see what beyonders from the other pathways will find difficult to see, even if they possess relatively powerful spirit vision. This is the uniqueness that Fate Pathway holds. So the problem lies with me. That's not the point. The point is that you need to reimburse. That's not the fucking point, dude. The point is that you need to reimburse me 700 pounds. No, 730 pounds. Klein cursed as he couldn't help but recall the orphan Adamisio, who had the nickname of Monster in Tinkin City. The young man who had the... Oh, hold up. We have not heard of Adamisio, and it's been like 500 chapters since we've seen Adamisio. Klein is... He ain't gonna get scammed out of this one. The young man, who was equal to half a sequence 9, had cried out after seeing Klein before falling to the ground. His eyes bled, and the fear had exhibited was as if he had seen a devil. This was because of the uniqueness of the Wheel of Fortune Pathway to the Divine. So he saw something wrong with me. He saw something related to the Gray Fog. Unfortunately, this... Okay, we're getting Adamisio, but he's gonna be a pretty important figure, huh? Shit. He saw something wrong with me. He saw something related to the Gray... He saw something related to the Gray Fog. Unfortunately, this fake counselor is quite heavily injured and has a domain of bad luck around him. There's no way for him to help help inspect me. I shall ask Snake of Fate Will Austin when I'm back. Perhaps he might know something. However, this pathway does have the bearing of a charlatan. He might not directly answer me and has a high chance of answering in vague terms. Klein maintained his expressionless attitude and said, "Then what do you plan on doing?" Ricciardo sighed and said, "Get Darkwell here. I'll augment him with good luck and get him to win the money at the casinos on your behalf." Using the name of the inn Councilor Ricciardo gave, Klein quickly found the chubby apocryphy. Darkwell then, while carrying the suitcase and cane, Klein watched as he kept winning money at the major casinos. By midnight, he had already won 750 pounds. After receiving the remaining 730 pounds, Klein realized the problem. The reason for the luck augmentation's failure was because of him. Why is that so? Klein held close to his building wallet and frowned as he thought silently to himself. He quickly thought of the thin, invisible, grayish-white fog around him and realized the reason. After advancing to Faceless, the gray fog had integrated... Oh, shit! Yes! The gray fog, it's like now he's walking around with a mobile VPN and it wards off any it wards off any divinations and whatnot. All right, got it. Or any augmentations, any debuffs or buffs. So it's a double-edged sword. After advancing to Faceless, the gray fog had integrated with reality to a certain extent. Not only can it help me screen off ravings that aren't too powerful, but it can also destroy any influences that change my fate to a certain extent. Therefore, the Councilor's luck augmentation was ineffective. According to this logic, bad luck to a certain extent shouldn't affect me either. So he should be safe from the die. Hey, what the heck? It doesn't make me become some unlucky fool, but it also destroys my chances of being a lucky man or a winner. Klein secretly shook his head. Hold up, that would be a good thing. That means he is the only individual and Lord of the Mysteries, that is not bound by fate. Unironically, Klein is the only individual that is unbound by fate. He is not tied to destiny. Like, he is the only one that lies outside of fate. That's what I'm thinking. And so I'm thinking this is going to be a good thing overall, like in the long run. Klein secretly shook his head and followed Darkwell and the Owl back to the stone bridge. He informed Ricciardo of how to summon his messenger. And no, I think the die is just too powerful. No. Maybe I'm wrong. No. Immediately send him news once he obtained any information on a mystical item with powerful offensive traits. After doing all of this, Klein found an inn at the Orarvi Island's port city and got a simple room for himself. Backland in the morning, Emlyn White walked under his favorite gloomy skies, moving through the thick fog that couldn't be compared to those in November or December as he once again arrived outside of Northborough's 7 Pine Street. After pulling the doorbell, he straightened his back as he lifted his chin and waited patiently. When Leonard opened the door, he looked at the handsome but detestable face before making May when allowing the visitor to enter. He was still dressed in a homewear comprising of a white shirt and the black trousers. However, he had an additional dark-colored vest draped over him. Have you considered the matter? Leonard asked with a similar no problem. Since it wasn't his money, Emily had no intention to haggle. He even believed that with this attitude displayed by Leonard, there was a high chance of having the price raised if he tried. Leonard gently nodded and smiled. Very rich. I can tell that you're trying to lead me to say more. Emily silently scoffed and replied, that's not something you need to concern yourself with. With that said, he raised the suitcase in his hand and opened it, revealing 7,000 pounds in cash. Leonard took out, that's a lot of money, bro. That's a big wad of cash. Leonard took out each stack of cash and thoroughly checked it carefully. Then he pulled off the red glove he wore on his left hand and handed it to Emlyn. This is the mystical item you require. It can change the colors to disguise itself. It's called Tinder. It's called Tinder. It can raise the wearer's charm, making his words be equipped with great persuasiveness. It can steal the beyonder powers of a target within 50 meters. The more you understand the target, the easier it is to steal the power you wish to steal. The less you know, the more randoms it becomes, and it relies on luck. When the target is at sequence 6, there's a chance of failure. The higher the sequence is, the higher the chance of failure. After the theft succeeds, the target will lose the beyonder's powers, and it will take at least 12 hours to recover. The owner of Tinder... Is he trying to like match with someone? The owner of Tinder will be able to use it at an adequately for 10 minutes. And the reason why it's expensive is because... Wait, hold up. Wait, I've been joking about the word Tinder. Let me see what it actually does. So let me reread what it actually does. It's called Tinder. It can raise the wearer's charm. That sounds like something you can use in Tinder. Okay. Raise your charm, making his words be equipped with great persuasiveness. It can steal the beyonder powers of the target within 50 meters. Okay, and freedom units, that's 150 feet. The more you understand the target, the easier it is to steal the power you wish to steal. The less you know, the more random it becomes, and it relies on luck. There's a lot of luck being evolved now in this volume, huh? When the target is at sequence 6, there's a chance of failure. The higher the sequence, the higher the chance of failure. I feel like that's been common in most things. The higher the sequence, the higher the chance of failure. Now your risk goes down if you use Tinder. After a certain amount of time, right? At least in this universe. After the theft succeeds, the targets will lose that beyond power, and it will take at least 12 hours to recover. The owner of Tinder will be able to use it adequately for 10 minutes. And the reason why it's expensive is because it has very few negative side effects. Emily, who silently took in the introduction, he had interest piqued the mystical item like Tinder. He asked, what are its negative side effects? Leonard combed his hair and smiled. First, when wearing it, there is a small probability of losing something on you. Second, when you're using it, a particular beyonder power belongs to you will be lost for at least 12 hours. But during this period, that sounds really bad. But during this period, it will be the only beyonder power lost. In other words, even if it's used repeatedly, there will only be one power lost the entire time. So you steal a power, you steal someone's power, and you lose one of your powers, and you can only use that power despite how many times you use it for that set period of time. That's not too bad, right? Unless, yeah, it's not too bad. Compared to the many sealed artifacts I know of, its negative effects are indeed trivial. Emlyn cleared his throat as he nodded. He received Tinder and checked it carefully before taking out the stacks of cash from the suitcase and placing them on the coffee table. Following that, he placed the gov into the suitcase and didn't take it with him directly. With the suitcase, Emlyn returned to the Harvest Church just like he did before. Once he entered the priest's break room, he set up a sacrificial ritual. The illusionary and mysterious door opened and the red glove tore through the dark and deep void as it was sent directly above the gray fog. At this moment, the gray fog made contact with the glove. A tiny, distorted, terrifying face suddenly appeared. It kept evaporating as it struggled to sustain itself. Upon seeing this scene, Klein wasn't surprised. After all, the grandpa resided in Leonard's body was an angel of the marauder pathway. If Amon could do it, it was quite certain that he was capable of doing the same. For this, he made sufficient preparations. He believed that even if Grandpa had really reached Amon's level, he was able to wipe out the corresponding aura without making him sense the existence of the Grey Fog, making him take action on Emlyn. Picking up the Sea God Scepter, which had long been placed in front of him, Klein made the blue gems light up at the same time for a commanding position. Suddenly, silver light bloomed above the gray fog as the lightning carried potions of the gray fog powers like a storm, zapping the tiny illusionary face. The face dissipated completely before it could even cry out, leaving behind a dead, translucent worm with... I'm sorry. What is going on here? At this moment, the gray fog made contact with the glove. Let me... Oh, hold up. Following that, he placed the glove in the suitcase. Compared to many sealed artifacts I know, I saw 12 ringed worms. I'm like, how the hell did we get here? Emlyn cleared his throat as he nodded. He received the Tinder and checked it carefully before taking out the stacks of cash from the suitcase and placed it... Let me read this part again. And place it on the coffee table. Following that, he placed the glove in the suitcase and didn't take it with him directly. With the suitcase, Emlyn returned to the Harvest Church just like he did before. Once he entered the priest's break room, he set up a sacrificial ritual. The illusionary and mysterious door opened as the red glove tore through the dark and deep void as it was sent directly above the gray fog. At that moment, the gray fog made contact with the glove. A tiny, distorted, terrifying face suddenly appeared. It kept evaporating as it struggled to sustain itself. Upon seeing the scene, Klein wasn't surprised. After all, so it's Grandpa. So it's like just like how Amon's vessel. Okay, so that's why that happened. Upon seeing the scene, Klein wasn't surprised. After all, Grandpa residing in Leonard's body was an angel of the marauder pathway. If Amon could do it, it was quite certain that he was capable of doing the same. For this, he had made sufficient preparations. He believed that even if Grandpa had been really reached Amon's level, he was able to wipe out the corresponding aura without making him sense the existence of the gray fog, making him take action on Emlyn. Picking up the Sea God Scepter, which had long been placed in front of him, Klein made the blue gems light up at the same time from a certain commanding position. Suddenly, the silver light bloomed above the gray fog as the lightning carried portions of the gray fog powers like a storm, zapping the illusionary tiny face. That's where the worm came from. The face dissipated completely before it could even cry out, leaving behind a dead, translucent worm with 12 transparent rings. Okay, so now, well, I didn't read what Ascent said, just in case. So now we know the rings are not just tied to Amon's vessel, but I guess any parasite individual that use a vessel. Okay, so Amon and Grandpa can both leave behind the 12 translucent, transparent wings, right? The worms of time. Worm of time, but it seems weaker than Amon. Oh, no wonder he's scared of Amon. He's stronger. Worms of time, but it seems weaker than Amon. Klein muttered as he beckoned with his hand from the red glove and familiar worm to fly to him. As some serious scrutiny, he confirmed that the worm was basically identical to the ones Amon Avatar had left behind. My dear poet grandpa is on the same sequence as Amon. No. Sequence 1. No, not necessarily. Perhaps this is a unique trait of one of the earlier sequences. If it's really a sequence 1, the notion that Amon is the son of the creator and a king of angels makes it possible that he has fused with a uniqueness or has another sequence 1 characteristic. He has another sequence 1 characteristic. Klein made a guess, but he was unable to verify it. As for what the dead worm of time could be used for, or when its spirituality were to completely dissipate, he could only throw it into the junk pile due to his lack of the... It's crazy how, like, he has a junk pile of all these crazy mystical items. Due it to his lack of the corresponding knowledge. 7, Pinster Street, Backlund. Leonard Mitchell sat on the sofa with his eyes tightly closed. His eyes were propped up on the coffee table as though he was using a short nap to make up for an entire night of being awake. After none period of time, he suddenly opened his eyes and said with a suppressed voice, "What happened? Have you determined the true buyer of Tinder?" And it's still funny, the name. Klein, he is stacked. Klein is definitely stacked. Not low key, bro. He has a Seagot scepter. He has like something literally. He has like Rozongo's fucking all black eye that's corrupted by the true creator. He has a Zix copper. He has so much shit. A Zix copper whistle. Now he has this. He is stacked. He is a Giga Chad now when it comes to like hoarding shit. He is probably like the hoarder of like mystical items. An elderly voice rang out in his mind. The aura I left behind has been eliminated completely. An elderly voice rang out in his mind. The aura I left behind has been eliminated, completely eliminated. Did you discover anything? Leonard retracted his feet as he asked in a deep voice. The ancient voice sighed, nothing. Everything was over before I could react. If I were in my best state, I might have been able to grasp the relevant clues. Unfortunately, I've remained in a weak state for years. Leonard remained silent for more than 10 seconds before he shook his head. Then we'll temporarily treat it as if this had never happened. Above the gray fog, Klein listened to Emily's report and took note of the information regarding the mystical item. He fiddled with a glove named Tinder as he examined... It's such a funny name. He fiddled with a glove named Tinder as he... Like, to think Tinder would be this broken in the Lord of Mysteries. As he examined it. This way, I'll have a glove for my right hand. Now he has a glove for his right hand and he has a glove for his left hand. What a badass, dude. After serious consideration, Klein abandoned the thought and immediately extracted the mental corruption of the true creator from the all-black eye. Right away! Dude, we are so close to digesting this potion, dude. Corruption of the true creator from the all-black guy. This was to ensure his success, hoping to leave the chance to the moment when he was concocting the marionette's potion. Shouldn't he do this after he's out of the dice sight? Like, for all we know, the dice randomly ends up with him again, dude. And he's like, ah, shit, I corrupted the all-black guy. According to the records of the City of Silver, even without the gray fog screening, there were no problems with such a procedure. Furthermore, with the gray fog, there wouldn't be any additional accidents, even if it were the mental corruption left behind by the true creator. I can also use Tinder. I can use Tinder normally. Yes, when I need to use it, I have to put my cash, pockets, and watch. Oh, because he can use it. Other mystical items above the gray fog, I mustn't let any item become lost. In fact, even if I don't do so, the problem isn't too great. I'm a seer. Do I need to be afraid of not being able to find things I dropped? You can just do a divination. Heh. In a normal battle, I'll have creeping hunger on my left hand and Tinder on my right. This is so sick, dude. My right eye, just the thought of it sounds formidable. Oh, shit, you're right. They already suppressed the die. Yeah, never mind. Just the thought of it sounds formidable. Klein reined in his thoughts and discovered that everything related to Sequence 5 Marionette's potion was ready. Apart from the two commonly seen supplementary ingredients. He's so close. He nodded indiscriminately and muttered silently to himself, I just need to wait for the faceless potion to be completely digested. Oh, shit. Then I'll board the ship of the Admiral Stars of the Hangman and head for the East Sonia to find the mermaid. Dude, we are so close. Chapter 613 is called Leonard's Investigation. Oh my god, dude. Sequence 5 is peak. Bro, I'm ready. I am ready to see how high these peaks can get. All right, chapter 613 is called Leonard's Investigation. Lowen Kingdom, East Chester County, Stowen City. Having left the manor, Audrey moved into a villa. After she finished engaging in social gatherings with the local nobles, she sent her servants to the Varnet banker to withdraw a sum of cash. She didn't need to worry about this any further. She could easily pay off the £2,000 she owed Mr. Fool's Blessed. and she can also pay the 1,800 pounds she owed to Mr. World for the psychiatrist's characteristic. 15 minutes later, Audrey opened the door to her bedroom and glanced at her personal maidservant, Annie, who was monitoring the servants while they did their work. She looked down at the golden retriever who was sitting by the side of the wall and smiled. With a smile, she suppressed her voice and asked with shining eyes, Susie, you'll receive a gift in a while. Are you looking forward to it? If it were in the past, Audrey would have definitely said, Susie, your present is here. Susie, your present is here, making the golden retriever realize that she can find the actual item in the room as well. Otherwise, it was very easy for Susie, who had force of habit, who had been studying the basics of mysticism, to guess that Audrey had used ritualistic magic. With the new sentence structure, the situation could have Audrey receive a mysterious letter or the news in her bedroom confirm that the gift was about to be delivered. There would be too many possibilities as a result of this. Susie hits sequence 0 before Audrey. That'd be wild. That'd be a crazy turn of events. Susie could read the joy and sincere attitude deep inside Audrey's heart as she subconsciously opened her mouth, hoping to stir the air to produce a voice. She had wanted to inquire about the gift, but she sharply sensed that Audrey's personal maid, Annie, was approaching. The alert Susie abandoned her original thought. And what she just barked? Ellie better though? Thank you, username. Did someone say Ellie's better? You know, I do like... Wait, hold up. I don't know if that's... Look, dude, every time I see a name, I suspect... I'm under the impression any name that's been used in chat has to be a name of a character. Do I want to know who? I don't want to know who. Like, just like, there's like Wes... No, not username. Lucas... No, I don't think there's Lucas. I've seen the name Merlin pop out a few times. I don't want to know who he is. But Merlin better be as strong as Merlin from Fate. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's cool. No, it's cool. Don't worry. I don't need to know who Merlin is, but I'm under the assumption that there's a character named Merlin. With me. She returned to say being an ordinary dog as she slowly wagged her tail to express her joy and anticipation. After making an excuse to head out, Audrey entered a chemistry laboratory that she had specifically marked out for herself. She placed the psychiatrist's characteristic and supplementary ingredients on the table. Susie, do you still remember the potion concoction process? Is she gonna make her do it? Astolfo when? We love Astolfo. She cleared her throat and straightened her back as she excitedly played the role of a teacher. Woof, I remember. Sissy already knew what her present was. In her joy, she barked. Audrey added, try to concoct it by yourself. Susie looked down at her paws and suddenly fell silent. Audrey was taken aback before a brief silence ensued. A few seconds later, before the golden retriever could speak, Audrey covered her mouth without any atypical response and giggled. All right, Susie, there's no need to say a word. I know what you wish to say. You wish to express the fact that you're only a dog and unable to concoct a potion, right? Like, nah, you're going to do it. How embarrassing. At the same time, Audrey, who already charming and graceful external bearing, face-palmed herself inwardly. Woof. Sissy nodded forcefully. Audrey took the opportunity, turned around. Soon, she finished concocting the psychiatrist's potion, and she made it just like that. All right. She had previously asked Susie and learned that she had already finished digesting the potion on Wednesday. That's less than 2 months. Yes, a large reason has to do with how Susie isn't being noticed. She can run about anywhere in the manor or the Veiler and eavesdrop, allowing her to read the true thoughts of the maidservants. That's good as well. She would always share the tidbits with me. If not for her, I wouldn't have known about the dark sides of the many people who appeared normal and kind usually. Audrey poured, so she's finding like all the snakes in the maids. Like she's like, this maid is mean. I don't like her. Like now they know. Audrey poured the potion into a bowl and placed it on the floor. She watched as Susie went over and began licking the potion, and she's licking the potion. And, oh yeah, because she can't necessarily drink, right? Because she's a dog. And began licking the potion, and she couldn't curb the anticipation in her heart. The music sounds really low. Let me lower it a bit. Let me raise it a bit. One sec. Became unusable. But it's alright. Psychiatrist Miss Audrey is already prepared to use a plusate at any moment. Yes, I prefer the name psychoanalysis. That sounds more professional. Audrey stared at Susie with her beautiful emerald-like eyes with great seriousness and discovered that Susie's pupils were gradually fading and turning vertical. Dark gold scales seemed... What the Is she losing, like... This is like her losing control, right? Dark golden scales, just like Audrey. Dark golden scales seemed to grow beneath her thick fur, and the spirituality that belonged to Susie kept radiating outwards as though it was interweaving with the entire villa space. After calming her somewhat nervous emotions, Audrey scrutinized Susie's state. As long as something abnormal happened to Susie, she would immediately use the beyond her power psychoanalysis. Suddenly, Susie's voice sounded out in her ears. Audrey, I'm done. Audrey was temporarily at a loss of what to say. Ooh, that is. I wonder if there's fan art. So that's like when they say golden scales, I assume they're referring to like the Mind Dragon's like scaly skin, right? Had me bawling. Dude, that had me scared for a sec. I was about to start crying if that kept going. And her dream, Daisy returned to the Eastboro and told the old apartment she'd lived in for years. She pushed open the door and saw her mother Liz and her sister Fraser doing the laundry diligently. Daisy instantly became delighted and was about to join them. She was in charge of ironing the laundry. At this moment, she heard knocking at the door. She turned her head and realized that the visitor was a young man in the black and white checkered police uniform. The officer had black hair and green eyes. Leonard? Black hair and green eyes. Is he disguised as one? I still feel bad. Wait, hold up. Oh, Prince Essex? Yeah, I feel bad for him. That one, it's crazy. I actually forgot he did that to himself. But I genuinely feel bad for him. Like, he just wanted to be in love. And he was being used just like Trissy. It was a very tragic and poetic ending, right? Tragic and poetic ending. Ending. The offer. Oh, it's Daisy. Green eyes equals Leonard. I know. Dude, he's just like me. We both have green eyes. I'm like, green eyes? Leonard is just like me. The officer had black hair and green eyes with a somewhat blurry face. He had a notebook and fountain pens and asked, in the captain case, apart from what you mentioned, is there anything else you didn't mention to us? It's all nothing important. Daisy answered in a rather groggy manner. The handsome officer looked down at his notebook and said, it's fine, I'm willing to listen. Daisy looked back at the clothes with her hung up feeling as though she had forgotten some instructions. She honestly described all sorts of trivialities. In the end, she said, after I was abducted, my mother and sister had hired a private detective to search for me. His name was Mr. Sherlock Moriarty. He was a good man. Although he didn't find me directly, he later contacted a reporter to help me get compensated with the fountain money. Ooh, shit. What did I mispronounce? What did I mispronounce? The black-haired and green-eyed officer looked up again and glanced at Daisy before revealing a warm smile. I can't believe we're getting Daisy again. I feel so bad for her, man. She went through so much. Very good. Your answer is very satisfactory. Do you still remember the private detective's appearance? Daisy nodded. Without any alarm, she saw Sherlock Moriarty standing beside her. The detective had grown a thick beard and wore gold-rimmed glasses. It was almost identical to the one in her memories. After the black-haired, green-eyed officer sized up the image a few times, he seemed to vanish at some point in time without Daisy realizing it. For some reason, her mother and sister had also vanished. Oh. Yeah, we're still streaming, ready. Oh, her mother and sister had also vanished. That was so hard to... I'm getting emotional. That was so hard to read, dude. She ran through Eastboro in search of the familiar figures, but she ultimately woke up from her depression and sorrow. When she saw the dark ceiling of her school dormitory, she laid there in a daze for a second. Fuck, man, that's hard. Daisy didn't make a sound as she turned her body and buried half her face into a pillow. By the corners of the pillow, a wet... Oh, man, that's sad. By the corner of the pillows, a wet stain gradually spread out. Look at it, dude. I'm not even joking. I'm getting that emotional, dude. What's that one meme? Emotional damage. Like, dude, it's crazy how fucking side characters get me all choked up now, dude. That's how you know this is a good series. Like, once you lock in and, like, you start, like, falling in love with the series, anything gets to you, man. Like, you know what'd be crazy? I can see them bringing back the old lady that sold fucking Klein rye bread in, like, chapter 2 or 3 coming back and having a sad, pitiful death. And she's like, oh, you're Klein. I would genuinely bawl my eyes out. Like, if that were to happen, I'd be like, holy shit, dude. Dude, by the way, thank you, man. There's like 40 of you guys here. I would genuinely cry at Old Colder, man. That was fucked up. He's like, he finally had the food he's been wanting to eat for so long. Yeah, Miss Deline. Yeah, Miss Deline. Old Miss. She was the one that taught us, like, all the... She was like, oh, the grain act. Like, yeah, there you go, Miss Deline. Dude, if Miss Deline were to come back and, like, volume make... Oh my god, you remind me of an individual called Klein. And then she's, like, dying. That, I would genuinely cry. That would genuinely have me choking up, even though she was only involved in like one chapter. I was still genuinely crying. Nope, that's the landlord. Shit. Well, okay, the landlord too. I would genuinely cry for her too. All right, let's keep reading. As very good. Your answer is very satisfactory. Just remember where was it? A wet stain gradually spread out. Fuck, man. Yeah, the bread lady.
And remember how Aetheria's like, maybe she's the Evernight goddess in disguise as a human? Do you guys remember that one? I said that really early on. The person who entered Daisy's dream was none. I fucking told you guys it was Leonard. You're like, anybody with green eyes doesn't mean Leonard. It was literally Leonard, bro. The person who had entered Daisy's dream was none other than Leonard Mitchell. And no shot, he's gonna be like, he kind of looks like Klein. Although his investigation of the commonalities of these two cases was given to him time to deal with the matters of his own, he didn't forget. Yeah, you guys were pretty good. You had me believing it wasn't him. He didn't forget to act in a perfunctory manner. In the end, he really discovered the problem. Gaslit failed. No, it actually worked. You guys actually didn't make me believe it. I'm like, no, it's just another guy with green eyes. Just like the Sharon coincidence, there was Rafe Sharon with 1 R, and then there's bodyguard Rafe Sharon with 2 R's. Evernight mentioned? Yeah, I remember. I thought it was the old lady selling bread. In the case of Leonard Captain, a private detective named Sherlock Moriarty was involved, including his friend, reporter Mike Joseph. Although they had appeared on the outskirts of this matter, it was also direction for the investigation. That Sherlock Moriarty looks somewhat familiar. Which fugitive is he? Leonard recalled that he had seen in the dream as he wore his red glove and entered the basement of the St. Samuel Cathedral. Just as he greeted the team captain, Soist, he saw a partner approach and hand him 2 sheets of paper. The information regarding the red-eyed man from the Harvest Church is all here. Thank you. Do you want to have lunch together? Leonard asked with a smile. The Nighthawk shrugged and said, no, as long as you stop making me have nightmares. Deal. Damn, look at him digesting his potion. Leonard smiled as he received the doiser. He stood there. He stood there without being in a hurry to sit down as he casually browsed through it. Emlyn White, a vampire currently under the jurisdiction of the Church of Earth Mother. He once vanished for a period of time. His partners had hired private detectives to find him. Thanks to a particular Mr. Stewart, this matter was ultimately resolved by the famous detective Sherlock Moriarty. Leonard smiled, gradually froze as his expression turned serious. Sherlock Moriarty, he repeated the name in his mind. Klein wasn't in a rush to... He's on to something. He's on to something. For me, the emotional damage came from when the author showed Klein's thoughts related to the original world. I felt sad that they were simple but profound lines. Yeah, it's sad, dude. Like, or like how he's like, sorry, I coughed. Or like how he's like, he wants to go back to his family. And he's like, I can't be emotionally attached to character. He like, I can't be emotionally attached here, and like, I have to find a way home. Yeah, like I feel like even all that from very early on, it's like really impactful. Klein wasn't in a rush to find an opportunity to engage in true acting. His tour to Orarvi Island, Port City, was the mindset of a tourist finding a brief and rare moment of relaxation in his tense life. The city had mostly immigrants from Lowen. The cuisine wasn't much different from the east coast of the kingdom, with only differences being that there were rare fruits of all sorts of seafood here. It was also quite a unique trait of the city. This place was rich in natural resources and was located in a key location of the safe sea routes. The standard of the living was pretty good. Even the farmers in the suburbs could save up money through their fruits of garden. This didn't mean that Rarvi didn't have the poor people of the lower classes. This class was mainly made up of people who were former slaves. Lowenese parliament had long abolished slavery. After chewing a juicy and sweet fruit, Klein watched the sky turn dark. He took a turn at the corner of the street and entered the bar named Sweet Lemon. That's a funny name. Is Easy Geeky's reading lesson ever finished? I think never. The reading lessons continue. There are way too many ravings. I mispronounced too much, bro. It's never going to stop. Edwina? I think we're going to meet her soon. I think we're going to reunite with the Admiral soon. It was a famous gathering place for adventurers in Orarvi. Klein planned on buying 2 remaining supplementary ingredients of marionettas. They're relatively common Drago tree bark and Sonia golden spring water. At this moment, the bar was rather lively. There were many people holding up cups around the boxing ring as they cheered loudly. There were people who looked like adventurers at the surrounding tables. They were also discussing all kinds of rumors in hushed tones. Just as Klein was squeezing towards the bar, he suddenly heard the name. I'm GERHMAN Sparrow. You should know who I am. I received a treasure map and need to hire some helpers. Fucking people are pretending to be him. The badooning will never end. It will keep continuing. I think I missaid that sentence, but you know what I mean. It's not because I'm afraid, but it's because I carry that much treasure alone. A green-eyed man in his 30s held half a glass of liquor and spoke 2 men and 2 women in the corner. It was a mystery as if they were merchants or adventurers. You can
You are also named GERHMAN Sparrow. Treasure map. Why does it sound like a scam? My killing of Wormtongue had already reached this place for Bam. Yes, it was likely communicated with Telegram or visitors. Therefore, many people know my name and deeds, but do not know what I look like. Cheats are using this opportunity to pass themselves off as me as to cheat others. Klein moved over as he came to realization. The green-eyed man drank a mouthful of liquor and slammed the glass on the bottom. I don't mind whether you refuse or agree, but I hate it when people make me wait. Do you wish to be like Wormtongue? Shut up. We hope for no badooning, losing your pace, and the perfect pronunciation for the finale of LOTM. That sounds like a beautiful. That sounds like a beautiful divination that we should keep up. Like, we pray for the streamer to not have any badoonings, no losing your place, and perfect pronunciations for the finale of LOTM all together. Yeah, all right. Yeah, that sounds like a really good divination. That sounds like a really good summoning ritual, Vec. We should save that. The young man opposite him said, slightly intimidated, I know you're a powerful adventurer. So the green-eyed man cut off the man's words. At that moment, he felt his collar tighten as he was lifted up by someone and thrown out the door. Oh, shit. Klein didn't provide an explanation as he directly threw the man out of the door with a stoic expression. Then he drew his revolver and aimed it at the spot where the man had fallen to the ground. He pulled the trigger without any hesitation. Bang! Yo, just as the green... Oh, he didn't kill him? Wait. Just as the green-eyed man fell to the ground, he saw a spark light up as the ground near his crotch. He was frightened that he swallowed back his cursing and scrambled away. Without any explanation, his weak performance proved that he wasn't GERHMAN Sparrow. Klein ignored the victim who stood there in a daze. He politely blew at the mouth of his revolver before stuffing it back into his underarm holster. What a badass. Following that, he walked slowly to the bar counter in a resulting silent atmosphere. Now everybody's like, that's the real GERHMAN Sparrow. Right? He's like, that's the real guy. That's the real GERHMAN Sparrow. It's breaking news. We're going to abruptly end this part of the read through because we're getting a Dally. I can't speak. We are getting a Dally preview in 10 minutes. Holy shit, it's happening. Ellie, are you ready? Are you excited? We're finally getting Madame Dally. Oh my god, I'm so ready. All right, hold up. We're going to abruptly end it. We're going to blah, 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 blah. We're going to abruptly end just this part of the read through. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your bus driver, share it with your neighbors, share it with your enemies, share it with family, share it with the extended family, share it with like the people you visit on the tour, you know, let them in, share it with your enemies, share it to your true creator, share it to your mommy every night, and we will see you guys really soon for the next part of this recording. All right, later guys.